Well, welcome to House Einstein Podcast 127. And with us this week is Karen Straus, real estate agent extraordinaire and colleague here in Boulder, and as well as Hamish, who is our co-producer and co-host of, I guess you're really the producer.
Behind the scenes, and I've got a microphone this time too, so we're working out.
Yeah, you may not see him on camera as much, but if you're watching, you won't see him on camera. But if you're just listening to the podcast, you'll hear him hopefully clearly.
Great, I'm excited to be here.
All right, so we're going to go through a much shorter docket than we normally do in terms of the topics we're talking about. If you're new to the podcast, our mission here is to entertain. This podcast is separate and distinct from the House Einstein Brokerage, which sponsors the podcast. The mission of the House Einstein Brokerage is to help you make a smarter real estate decision, but please don't make any real estate decisions based on anything you hear in this podcast. This is entertainment. And if you'd like to reach out to one of the agents in the podcast, you know where to find us. We're happy to help you, but not based on anything we share in this pod.
Good advice.
And our topics today. So we're going to be talking to Karen pretty extensively about her real estate experience and what it's been like for her in the business. But we're also going to talk about, some of the things that are behind the scenes in real estate that I would say most buyers and sellers have no idea is a potential pitfall of that they might be stumbling into. And then we're going to talk about our sales of the week. Those are notable sales that illustrate certain price ranges or locations or neighborhoods, or they're just cool properties that we just want to talk about that recently closed. We can't talk about active listings per the MLS rules and the commission rules, which is sort of a funny thing, but it is an accepted practice in real estate. We don't talk about active listings in a public forum. And let's see. We're also talking about camera and surveillance items. That's in our topic du jour. And then our big news item is Mark Wallach's recent resignation from City Council. And I feel like both Karen and I have a lot
opinions about that.
Have a lot to say about that. And with that, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So good to have you.
I'm thrilled.
All right. Karen, what's your story? Give us your background, where you grew up, how you ended up here.
Yeah. Well, like you, I'm from New York, although I think not the same region.
Where in New York?
I'm from Westchester County, which is just north of New York City, so not upstate. We like to draw that line that is not upstate New York.
Where in Westchester? Yeah.
I'm from northern Westchester, so like Mount Kisco, Bedford Hills, that area is where I grew up and lived. And then I lived in Brooklyn for a little bit, and then I got tired of living in the city, and I moved out here in 2000. And I was really trying to get into the music business. So my background is sort of rock and roll. So I actually studied to be an audio engineer and got into the music industry right here in Boulder as a sound engineer.
Right.
And did that for many years.
At the Fox?
At the Fox Theater is where I began in 2000 as an intern, pushing cases and just trying to get some time on the consoles, and then worked my way up. I got in with a big production company in Boulder that did, at the time, most of the shows at Red Rocks, at Fiddler's Green, at some of those bigger venues, the Fillmore. And so I ended up working my way up through the ranks and honestly mixing shows at Red Rocks, and really had like the rock and roll dream, but then realized it was not sustainable long term.
Right. Well, I mean, real estate isn't sustainable for a lot of people either,
True.
But probably higher probability of being successful.
Yeah, right.
So I'm really curious about which were your favorite acts and what were your horror stories from?
Oh, there's so many.
And are there some parallels with real estate?
So many parallels with real estate that you would never have predicted. Most of the first 10, 12 years was that audio engineering piece, mixing shows, working with the bands directly. And then I moved into management, production management. So more organizing the concert production. So still on the technical side, but not actually in the trenches mixing shows. So the last 10 years before I got into real estate was as the VP of production manager for the Fox Theater and Boulder Theater in Boulder, the two main venues here. So just organizing the shows, advancing with the bands, or managing all of the technical systems, sound, lighting, backline, managing a staff of close to 50 people, sound engineers and lighting designers and stage managers and all of the fun that comes with that.
Were you reading the detailed contract and making sure like that everything was complied with?
Yes.
You know, the M&Ms,
The riders, yep.
The M&M story,
Yes.
right? Like you
I
were
had
the one.
a hospitality assistant who managed that for me for the most part. But yes, we would get the riders for those bands. We would manage their hospitality. Make sure their green room was set up with the right number of towels, and then make sure the stage was ready for them with the right gear, the right staffing, the right number of stagehands, the parking for their tour bus. You know, there's so much that goes into producing a concert.
I bet.
Even at a local venue.
Did you ever get to actually enjoy the show?
Yeah.
Or were you just so caught up with making sure it went off right?
It does take you out of the magic a little bit, but you also get to see so much and appreciate so much. And you get to watch sound check where they're maybe working out a new song, and you get to meet everybody, and everyone is just, I think people ask me for horror stories assuming that everyone's a diva, but actually, like, most artists are very professional and very polite and very kind. So,
well, to successfully run
Yep.
productions for as long as you did, you have to know what you're doing.
You have to
and
know what you're doing.
Be competent.
Right.
Yeah. So any favorite acts who were like the best?
yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a few, you know, career highlights. You know, back when I was mixing, certainly at Red Rocks, I got to work with Levon Helm, who was the drummer from the band who later passed away. But he used to do the Midnight Rambles in Woodstock, and he had like a 14-piece band play at Red Rocks, and I mixed monitors for them, and it was just like an incredible experience. And I dealt with, you know, Morrissey coming to the Boulder Theater and making the whole venue go vegan for the day, and
The whole venue had to go vegan.
the whole venue
for
goes
Morrissey?
vegan for the day. He does ride around in a Mercedes S-Class with leather seats, but and then canceling the show like after doors were open, so which is par for the
What do
course
you
for
do
him.
when an artist cancels the show after people are being let in?
You know, if it's Morrissey, you refund everyone's money and you send them home. And it's a whole lot of work for nothing. So sometimes it's high drama. For the most part, like real estate, things move smoothly. And
So okay, so I'm curious about what your growing up was like. What did your parents do, and how did you why did you first decide music, and then?
you know, I think to be perfectly honest, I had a boyfriend in high school who was a musician and also a bit of an audio engineer, and he needed someone to help mix when his band played. And so I kind of got into it, and then it stuck with me, and it seemed like something I wanted to be good at. So I stuck with it. Yeah, I like the technical piece of things. So it was like really scratched an itch in my brain.
It's something I know so little about, right? Like
Yeah.
mixing audio is something
Right.
that Hamish and I have stumbled into realizing we need to know something about this to not sound bad.
Sure, totally.
And we've had
Most people.
our arm wrestling over like simple things like what level should background be and what level should, you know, vocals be in anything.
Right,
and
for sure.
And boy, it just felt like, my God, there's a whole universe of understanding
Yes,
about sound
for
that
sure.
we don't know anything about.
And different, I think, when you talk about like podcast or studio recording, where you have chances to do it again and again, or to adjust levels in post afterwards, versus live sound where you have to throw and go. Like there's no second chance. You have to do it right the first time. If something goes wrong, you have to fix it, possibly in front of thousands of people watching. So you get good at thinking on the fly and problem solving and troubleshooting. And I think a lot of that skill set has transferred well.
This podcast is sponsored by House Einstein. We serve buyers and sellers in Colorado, focusing on Boulder, Denver, and several mountain resort towns, including Breckenridge and Winter Park. Our mission is simple: help you make a smarter real estate decision. You can learn more at houseeinstein.com or our YouTube channel, where you'll find videos on neighborhoods, specific listings, and much, much more.
Into real estate.
Yeah.
We put out
Okay.
a lot of fires.
So walk me through the transition into real estate.
So I ended up, you know, in more of that management position for almost 10 years. And then COVID hit in 2020 and all the music venues shut down. So I was fortunate enough to be a salaried employee at the time. I was able to keep most of my income, but there was a long pause in the music industry, a really long pause. And I ended up having lunch at one point with the woman who had been my real estate agent for years, who was getting close to retirement. And we had lunch, and I was sort of lamenting the issues with the music industry. At that time, I had two very young children. They were 2 and 4 years old. And the late nights and the long hours and the stress were really burning me out. And I don't think I realized how burned out I was until COVID hit and I had a minute to breathe. And I think that probably happened to a lot of people. But, and so we had lunch and she was like, you should get your license and come work with me. I think you'd be good at this. I'm going to retire in a few years. Like, just let's see how it goes. And so I did. And that was October of 2020. And I was still kind of working at the venues. I hadn't quit or anything, but it was slow enough that I could work on real estate too. And, things took off more than I expected. So within a few months, I had a couple people calling for listings. I had a few buyers, and it escalated quickly. And I was busy. And then I got furloughed at the end of 2020 for a few months. So I had no choice but to just dive deep, full into real estate at that point.
Huh.
And so by the time they called me back in February of 2021, I was like, I'll give you 6 weeks and then I have to go. I'm too busy.
Right. Well, so I've seen the story kind of play out a few times with agents, and if they have roots in the community, right, they've been in our community for a while,
for sure.
They can take off like a rocket.
Right.
Even though they've had very little real estate experience previously, people trust them. They're deeply connected in the community, and this is one of the things I think most buyers and sellers don't realize when they may realize it because they're making this decision.
Yeah.
They choose to work with somebody they know and trust.
100%. And that's exactly right. And I think in the music industry in particular, it's very close knit. So people want to work with someone they know well, who they already know they get along with. Also, I think I was in a leadership role for so many years in the industry. And so people came to me for advice or came to me for that leadership and trusted me not to drop the ball on producing a concert day to day. And so I think for whatever reason, when it came time for real estate, they also trusted me inherently that I was going to do a good job and not drop the ball.
Competency is transferable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly
absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Well,
so an interesting transition there, but I think there's a lot of similarities with, there's contracts, in the music industry. We get a rider, we have a contract we have to look over and fulfill and adhere to. We work with vendors. So in the music business, I have to call the right person for backline gear, the instruments the bands play with, or the right lighting package. And I knew who to call for exactly, for what. And then in real estate, I know who to call for plumbing and who to call to fix drywall and who to call for that paint job that we need done. So there's sort of some similarities there with.
It's really about problem solving and knowing the right people and the right ways to get things done.
Right.
And if people know you are a person who gets things done, they will trust you to get things done in the largest financial transaction of their lives.
Right.
So it totally makes sense why you took off so quickly.
It works. And I think, 2021, let's remember what was happening in 2021 in the market. It was bonkers here. I mean, there was so much movement. Houses were selling with 15 offers in the first weekend. So in some ways, like a good year to get in because there was a lot of activity. And I think for some people, maybe, that died off after those first year or two, like 2021, 2022 were both pretty busy.
I don't know what the data said. Hamish, maybe you remember this better, but how many agents have gotten out of the business since 2022 when it peaked? I think that there quite a few have gotten out.
Yeah, not off the top of my head. I know there's the one where it's like 70% of agents don't make it past the third year. So to that extent.
Yeah, I think in general, but I think in particular the ones who got in during COVID, there was a lot of attrition at the end of 2022 and people who didn't renew their license.
Well, I remember feeling bad for all these agents that when there's 15 offers on the table and you're not you don't even know how to write an offer.
Yeah.
Like you're just learning how to write an offer, and meanwhile you're trying to compete with 15 other potential buyers, and you don't know how to make your offer stand out.
Right.
We started really. I mean, this is getting into IP, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about earlier how to protect your trade practices.
Right.
We really started getting protective because what I saw was certain techniques were getting us at least a seat at the bidding war.
Right.
And we would get a phone call back, and we were given opportunities that other agents weren't because of reputation and some of the levers we were pulling in the contract. And I got a little protective at that time. I'm like, I'm not telling people. Like, in fact, our strategy guide at the very top, it says only to be distributed to people that are under buyer agency because we do not want this circulating out there.
And I don't blame you.
And it actually, I don't know, we did pretty good during that time period, but it was stressful. It was a lot of work.
It was stressful. And I think a lot of outsiders, are like, oh, that was such a great time for real estate agents. It must have been really, really great for you. And I think people forgot that we also all had buyers, so yes, on the listing side, sure, we were getting 15 offers, which is also stressful in its own way. But then we were also out there in the trenches with our poor buyers trying to get them under contract week after week, with all this competition. But I did sort of cut my teeth in that time, in that era. So it did make me get really good at writing competitive offers and being creative. And then also, I think, part of the secret sauce there is calling the other agent and connecting with them in a way that they want to work with you. And I think that is something that gets overlooked beyond the parameters.
When I came to Colorado from the investment world of New York and Boston, East Coast sort of energy around negotiations and deal making, it was so counterproductive to getting things done. And in this local market, I think Denver's a little different. But my personal experience in Boulder has been, knowing agents and treating them well and communicating 100%. Really well gets deals done so much easier than being overly aggressive.
Agreed. We are a collaborative community in Boulder. I think people here tend to be more collaborative than competitive and aggressive when it comes to working together on a transaction. When
you figure out the math, and I've done this analysis at least 3 times in the many years I've been in this market, but it's not quite 80-20. It's 70-30. 70% of the deals are done by 30% of the agents. There's lots of agents that only do 1 deal or 2 deals the whole year in the Boulder market. And of course, there's lots of agents that don't do any deals. I don't even know why they're licensed. And that's the part that's really opaque for buyers and sellers. So we're talking about things that buyers and sellers don't realize. And that one of the problems with the trust your friend approach to real estate is they may be trustworthy. You like your friend, you trust your friend, but they may not know enough about the real estate world to be competent. So that's one of the reasons I think a lot of brokerages, the Remaxes, the Compasses, they offer credibility. Right. Remax was happy to take somebody with no experience. I think Coldwell also happy to take somebody with no experience. Can you fog a mirror and do you have a license? I think more recently Compass has become more selective about who they will take. And certainly we are incredibly selective about who we take because we're such a small team with such a niche mission. But it's so interesting because I feel like that has been a drum I personally have beat so many times. And I'm okay if you don't choose me, but please choose somebody competent. So I will often ask if we're in the run-up, right? I'm being interviewed as a buyer's agent. I'll say, who else are you interviewing? And I can tell sometimes they're feeling uncomfortable about it. And I'm like, you don't have to tell me. And I won't tell you if they're bad, although you could probably read my facial expression. But I will tell you if you're interviewing somebody good. And I'll absolutely say their names out loud. And I'll be like, that's a great agent. We're different, and I'll tell you how we're different. But they're still a great agent. So you're not going to go wrong with that particular choice.
I think it's asking the right questions, and you've touched on this before too. Are you asking your potential agent the right questions? How many deals are they doing? What have they been selling? How do they handle a complicated situation? Name one example of a complicated situation you've dealt with, and how did you solve that problem?
Name one example of something you screwed up. And what did you learn?
How did you fix it?
And if they don't have examples off the top of their head about what they screwed up and what they learned, they're probably hiding a lot.
Or don't have a lot of experience in the market. And I think one thing I've learned, and Andy, my mentor, had said this to me, and she was like, no matter how long you do this, you're learning something new on every transaction. There's always something new that comes up, something maybe you haven't dealt with before, and you take that knowledge. So when you're doing just a higher number of transactions, you are getting more knowledge and more experience, regardless of the price point.
Absolutely. Which Andy? This was your
Andy Rice.
Oh yeah. Andy Rice is great.
She's absolutely great. Yeah. So she retired a few years ago.
And I didn't know she retired.
Yeah.
Agents just suddenly one day disappear.
I know.
And suddenly realize we haven't done a deal with this agent in such a long time.
We're like, where have they been?
I hate that. We had an agent, I won't mention his name, but he passed away.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know he passed away. For a number of years, I was looking at his videos and I'm like, okay, we're going to benchmark against his videos. And then one day I realized I haven't seen a video from him in like 3 years. And I went and I looked him up on his socials and I'm like, oh my God, he passed away. Oh my God. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. No, but she's doing great. So we still talk all the time.
Andy's great.
Yeah. So I had a great influence and a great mentor. And then I think that helped me in those first 2 years because I had someone actually watching over me, which in Colorado, for the first 2 years that you're licensed, you are supposed to have somebody watching over you closely. And I think that doesn't happen a lot at some of the larger brokerages.
Oh, it doesn't happen
They're
at all.
not getting that supervision. So for me, I had someone that was an expert and I could say, okay, here's the situation. How do I handle this? What do I write? What should I put in additional provisions, if this is the situation? And I had someone who could mentor me on that, which helped me move forward with a little more confidence, maybe than just floating out there in the ether as a brand new agent.
I mean, we still have those conversations as a team, and even though every agent on the team is very experienced, sometimes we run into problems.
Yeah, right.
And having a colleague to bounce ideas off of that's not a swimming in with sharks environment, somebody that actually cares about your well-being and success, and wants to help you be successful. That is something that's very different than most agents experience. And at these big brokerages, and I'm going to name them, right, the discount brokerages. Is it HomeSmart in particular?
Resident,
and then there's a couple of others that basically advertise themselves as minimal fees, right? They're virtual offices, and they also have built-in like pyramid scheme money-making MLMs built into their
EXP
marketing.
Is a big one for that too.
That approach attracts a certain type of agent, and that's not an agent that often is getting, especially if they're new, are not going to get much coaching and mentoring.
Right. Yeah.
It's the funniest business. That spectrum of competency that I've talked about is so wide in this industry, and I really don't want to keep harping on it, but I feel like it is such an overlooked aspect. People don't realize that the person that they chose really, and the worst, it's gotten worse. The worst is when you click the click to show.
Yeah.
Right. They go to Zillow or Redfin,
and you don't know who you're getting.
And that agent that listed the home did not pay for the premium of getting the leads from Zillow or Redfin, and so they direct those leads to whoever is willing to for the highest bidder. And the highest bidder could be completely incompetent,
could be
desperate for leads, and now they're showing homes in a market they don't know anything about, a neighborhood they don't know anything about, and they don't have a lot of experience on top of it. It's a nightmare. But most people don't realize that's what they just signed up for.
Right. And I think that's the problem with just clicking show me this house on Zillow instead of maybe asking your friends for a referral to an agent that they trust, or interviewing or background checking in some form. And, I've gotten sign calls as a listing agent. I've certainly gotten random internet leads where I'm like, okay, I could have been anyone showing up here, but luckily you're in good hands. But we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of people's money, sometimes millions of dollars of people's money.
In the Boulder market, we're talking about millions of dollars.
Buying these houses with a click of a button, finding an agent with a click of a button. So sometimes maybe they get lucky and sometimes not.
Well, I remember when I first got into this business, my mentor in the business, Alan Warden, who is still, I guess he's not really in the real estate world as much anymore. He's more in the investment world in lots of ways.
Okay.
But he had come from the investment world. He had really just gotten this brokerage off the ground that summer. There were 3 agents, and he was and I was hired to help build financial models and do a bunch of different things, not be an agent. And help, but I was hired to also help the agents with their marketing. And I'll never forget him telling me that he had had the opportunity to work with Lou Gerstner as his buyer's agent. And Lou is former C-suite executive, probably billionaire. And he wrote a multi-page analysis for Lou on waterfront property that was unlike anything else the other agents that he was talking to were willing to do. Justifying the value of this property, how to think about it in a way from an investment perspective, not just that the house looks great on you and the light's fantastic.
Right.
And waterfront property is always a good investment on Nantucket, which may be true. But the analysis is what convinced that buyer to work with Alan. And that was a seed story for me and what our approach has been, which is how do we add value?
You do a lot of that as well, right? Or presentations or
heavier
analysis.
I no longer do written analysis the way I used to because it's very time consuming and I can't read the client to see if this is actually valuable to them. So instead of doing a multi-page written analysis for a client, we'll schedule a video call and then I'll share screen and we'll go through this analysis together. And because so much of the analysis is qualitative when we're looking at comparables, but if it comes down to like, let's look at data, then I can do it most of the time in real time. Because I've done it so many times. I can dump it into spreadsheets. We can do a trend line analysis. Most recently, I've been thinking about, I'll ask you this question. All right. So you're looking at houses in general, single family houses, and you've got 2 stories. You've got ranches with basements. You've got bi-levels and tri-levels. I think that's all of them, right? Sometimes you get 3 and 4 level houses, but they're rare.
That's about it. Yep.
So how would you rank those?
Okay. You want me to rank them?
In terms of market attractiveness.
Okay. Well, I have a few theories about this. I do think that we have, as a society, especially here, underbuilt single-story homes. And so there is a demand right now for people who want to age in place, wanting nice, not junky ranches, like nicer single-level homes. So that has sort of has risen in popularity, I think, as the population ages and wants to stay.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Sure.
So we have lots of ranches, but most of them are 1,000 to 1,200 square feet on the main.
Right. Yeah, they're not huge. But
And
not
do you think
everyone
that's
wants
big
huge.
enough for most?
I think people want bigger than that. And I think that's why you see some of these properties that are really nice, remodeled, larger ranches, or, in Fraser Meadows, you have more of these like sprawling ranches. And I think those are going to be what people are looking for as they age. And then I think if we can talk about the society as a whole around here, most people want that 2-story floor plan.
So that's the next most attractive.
That's the next most attractive. Although I think that's tied with ranch. Ranch is a different demographic. So I think probably the 2-story is what most of my buyers are looking for. And again, I have a big millennial base, young families, a lot of that type of buyer. I think the tri-level is polarizing. Some people love them and some people hate them. I think everyone hates bi-levels. We can just go ahead and say that out loud right now. I'm just going to say it. There's not very many people who like walking in their front door and having a set of stairs going up and down, no place to hang your coat. You're standing, when I show a bi-level with more than 2 people, we can't all even get in the door and close it at the same time. I don't know what we were thinking building so many of those. And they're everywhere. And they're in Table Mesa, like one of the most desirable neighborhoods in Boulder. And they're commanding $1.7 million for these houses.
For well done by, although I think that price has slipped down a little bit at this point. But there are fixes. I've seen them get fixed.
Yes, for sure.
And the fix is usually to
Bump
create a
out the front.
mudroom out
Yes,
the front.
exactly.
And then it actually is much more livable as an experience.
Agreed. But they're hard to add on to, don't you think?
They're very hard to add on
It's very difficult
to.
to even, you can't just pop the top. And if you're going to add on, people add up above the garage, and then you end up with another half level of stairs up to like your new master suite. So it's complicated to resolve that.
They are a funky design. And I understand why they were built that way at the time.
Yeah.
The basement is above grade.
Exactly.
So you don't feel like you're in a dark, decrepit basement. There's better connectivity to the main level and to the bedroom level. So if you've got kids, you can hear what's going on downstairs much more easily than you could if...
But the other problem with that floor plan, and I'm sure you see this all the time, is I have seen a few that are good, but for the most part, they are 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom up and 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom down. And who wants that floor plan?
Exactly. And the people we've sold homes to don't have kids. What they will often do is they'll combine the 2 bedrooms on the top and build a little office or create a master closet, primary closet.
Suite.
We're not allowed to call them master closets anymore, master bedrooms anymore. So they'll create a primary closet and take up most of that secondary bedroom.
And then downstairs is secondary.
But then
bedroom.
you still have your guest bathroom is downstairs.
Right. Everybody has to go down or use your
bathroom.
your
primary bathroom.
I have seen people add a little half bath. So I've seen people solve
That's
it, but
true.
it's not easily solved. It requires a lot of permitting and moving walls and reimagining the whole floor plan. And maybe that's worth it to be on the right lot in the right neighborhood with the right views, of which that does exist. But you really have to be committed to solving that problem.
Radical, full agreement on your rankings. Okay. No argument on your rankings. Exactly how I would have ranked them. So I feel like we're both right there.
Yes.
But one thing that, and bringing it back to this topic in the pod, that the problem with choosing an agent that doesn't do a lot of volume is that they often are desperate. And so they are conflicted by their commission because they're worried that if you love a house and they tell you what's wrong with the house, you're not going to want to buy the house and now they're not going to get paid. And so they're disincentivized to tell you the truth about this particular listing, whether it's the layout or there are other things that they see. They will conveniently not see the problems because they want you to buy the house so they can get paid. And getting paid is important.
I think that's hard.
I once had a client, after working with him for 3 years, offer to pay commission up front because we'd been working so long. And I'm like, we don't do that. We don't do that. We're not doing that.
That's not how it works.
It will take however long it takes. So,
yeah.
But it's funny because people just don't realize that pressure is out there for agents that are struggling to make a living.
I know. And I think that is something that even as a newer agent, the first few years are hard. You don't know when your next paycheck is coming all the time, right? And it's hard to have that, what they call the abundance mindset, where you just sort of trust that you will get more clients, and the money will come because you're doing a good job. And I think that's hard in the first few years to trust that. And it took me a few years of consistently having better business every year to finally be able to relax and be like, okay, I know I have enough clients, enough referrals that I will be okay. And the phone will keep ringing. But it's a struggle, I think, for young agents.
I mean, it's diving into the deep end of the pool and not knowing how to swim for a lot of people. And that's really scary. So having deep roots in the community, but also having a partner that has steady income can help a lot.
Yeah.
When we moved from Nantucket to here, we blew through all of our savings that first summer.
Yeah.
And it got really stressful. And ultimately I decided I've got to knock on doors and I got to go back to work in the investment community. And I did. I found an investment firm in Denver and literally cold called their private equity group.
Wow.
And the guy that I talked to gave me like 30 seconds. He's like, you've got 30 seconds, when I told him why I was calling him. And I'm like, the reason I'm calling you is because you have a job lead that's listed that I think I could do a fantastic job for you with. And I have a little bit of an unusual background. So I wanted to talk to you in person before I lobbed in a resume.
Yeah.
He's like, send me the resume and I'll look at it. And he hung up the phone. Wow. And then an hour later, he's like, all right, I'm walking your resume to the HR. And then they called me.
Yeah.
And I interviewed within his group, not even for the job that was listed. And they created a position for me.
Wow.
It was not an established position, which was really cool. And I worked there for a few years. And I'm really glad to have had that experience.
Yeah, what a good experience.
I had to do that to be able to continue in real estate because we ran out of money.
Yeah.
And so I worked full time for the investment firm, then nights and weekends writing blog posts about the Boulder market. And my now ex-wife did showings, and we worked together as a team for many years. And once real estate took off after about 3 years, and that investment firm got into trouble, and so I volunteered for a layoff at the perfect time. Had a summer of adventure with motorcycle rides, and then have been in full-time real estate since then.
And been successful and grown your business, grown your brokerage.
It's had ups and downs.
Yeah. Right. You went through 2008 and the crash.
So the global financial crisis was one big challenge, but our business actually grew. And we had originally hung our license with Remax, both of us. And once I quit the investment firm in Denver, we launched our own brokerage, and our business really grew when we did that. And that may have just been timing, but we saw significant growth when we went independent. And then in 2013, my ex and I split up. She took the old company, and I created House Einstein.
Right. Okay.
And it's been, steady growth since. We've had more people on the team in the past. And at this point, there's 4 of us. We're looking for maybe 1 or 2 other agents. Ultimately, if they're listening, if you're listening to this pod, call me if you want to talk, but be prepared to hear no, because we're really, really selective, and it just has to be a good fit for everybody.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so how about you? Like you had that 2020 jump start.
Right.
And then the peak of the post-COVID frenzy was March 2022.
Yeah.
Have you seen kind of steady state growth since then, or have you seen it drop down a little bit?
Every year has been better than the last for me in terms of growth and volume. So at some point that will probably level out, but maybe not. It's been a good growth trajectory for me.
What's the best part and what's the worst part?
The best part and worst part about being in real estate?
Yeah, about what you do and how you do it.
I think that, I have one thing that music industry, especially live concert production, has taught me is that, you have to stay cool under pressure. And I remember staff of mine being like, how do you stay calm when like everything's on fire? How do you stay calm? And I'm like, first of all, there's no sense in freaking out, but also I'm probably freaking out in my head and you just don't see it, but on the surface, I'm like, here's what we're going to do. And like remaining calm under pressure. But I think the hardest part for me has been the roller coaster that real estate is. And like, you get a call for a new listing and the adrenaline spikes and you're up here, and then a buyer terminates the contract and you're down here, and then you don't get this listing. And there's so many ups and downs. And I think learning how to ride that out and try to be even keel and not allow yourself to constantly be in these like adrenaline spikes and slumps has been a skill. That's been hard for me.
Have you had I'm sure you've had the person that you do a lot of work for, but you didn't put under buyer
for sure.
agency?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or you even did, and then they choose somebody else to work with, and
they're
like, I'm so sorry, I just decided to go work with somebody else, even though they were your friend.
Yeah.
Have you had that experience?
Maybe not with a friend, but I have spent a lot of time with, certain people who then decided not to buy it all. And then that's just, that only hurts you, I think, if you are constantly focused on that paycheck at the end of the road. And if you're not thinking of every client as a paycheck, then it doesn't really matter. It's all just part of your day to day. You're out showing this property, you're out helping with this listing, you're out doing this. Like that's just all part of the gig. And then when the paycheck shows up, that's right. Great too.
It's sort of icing on the cake. Like if you do good work, the good work itself is the reward.
Yeah.
And the money shows up.
Right.
Ultimately, if the money didn't show up, you couldn't keep doing
100%. The money's important, but but it doesn't have to connect directly to every client.
Exactly.
And I think separating that is helpful.
Exactly.
And also I do a lot of condos. I do a lot of first time buyers. I do $250,000 condos and $2 million properties. And if I didn't work as hard for the lower money, I just wouldn't be doing a good job. So I really separate that commission from the client.
Have you done any affordable housing deals?
I have done a couple. Yeah. I love the affordable housing program, but it's a whole thing. They are harder.
They are harder.
Ways.
They're twice the work and half the pay.
Yes. I had a challenging condo to sell at a challenging complex in Boulder, in Remington Post last year. And the city of Boulder came and bought it. And I don't know, it might still be on the market if they hadn't done that, but the city of Boulder affordable housing program was buying up some properties last year to add to their program.
Oh, I didn't know they were doing that.
Yeah. So a few of us got some sort of unsellable condos sold.
How does a city that is looking for $500 million in bond issue or $400 million go around buying properties with what money?
So here's why. You know that when builders build, they have to allocate 10% or something.
Fee in lieu, yeah.
But so they do the fee in lieu, right? The cash in lieu. And so then the city takes that cash in lieu and they're supposed to use it to buy
So they're actually
more.
buying. That's where the
so that is
funding mechanism
already sort of earmarked for buying these properties. And they were trying to do that, back during the craziness of the COVID market. They were in there trying to buy some because at the time the affordable housing program was choked too. Like there was a huge wait list for these properties.
I remember.
So even though now there is not that wait list and things are sitting, I think the city is having some foresight and purchasing some of these properties when it's easy, knowing that at some point they will be needed.
Well, I heard the waiting list has gone down.
Yeah, significantly.
But I don't know how long it is. So we also will work with affordable housing clients and happily serve them.
Absolutely.
But I also don't advertise the affordable housing because I feel like there's this unwritten rule about what you get, what you put out there into the world. So I don't really want to emphasize our affordable housing services, but absolutely, usually once a year we do an affordable housing deal, both on the buy and the sell side.
That's pretty often. I think I've done 2 or 3. But we're also at a point with condos in Boulder where they have come down so much in price that they are nearing the same price as the affordable housing condos.
But without the HOA dues are a very different story, it seems.
The HOA dues in general in Boulder?
General.
Yeah, no, they're high.
They're really high.
That's part of why the condo market is so depressed. But I think that, if there's a buyer with a limited budget just looking to get into something in Boulder and they're considering the affordable housing program, I would certainly at least point them towards some of these more affordable condos that are edging up to almost that same.
They should look at it, but so the difference is that the affordable program has newer inventory. The stock is newer, typically.
Yeah, some of it is, not all of it.
Not all of it, and maybe you need to wait for the right property to show up
Yeah.
and hop on market. You have to maybe wait your turn.
Yes.
But it might be worth waiting your turn
It might
because
be, for sure.
the affordable program, once you buy it, so not the affordable rental, the affordable purchase program, they don't reevaluate your income.
Right.
And so you could buy a property when you're low income, just out of graduate school or even college, if you have family support or whatever, and then continue to own that valuable piece of real estate that's in a fantastic location, newer build, and your income could quadruple, and it is what it is. And you can rent it 1 out of every 5 years. You can also put your family members in it.
Right.
So if you have a long-term vision to an affordable place to live in the city of Boulder, the affordable program
it's great, but it's
a
not
good deal.
It's not generally a cash cow. If you've held it long enough, certainly you can make money on it. But because you are limited to what you can sell it for.
It's not a cash cow for selling it. It's not a cash cow for renting it.
Right.
It's a cash cow for having a fantastic place to live at a low cost.
At a low cost, yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's it. You make your money in other ways.
Yeah.
And you aren't forced to sell it, but it needs to stay your primary residence.
It does. Or I think it's 1 out of every 7 years. I thought that you could rent it, but
it was 1 out of
it might be
every
5.
But maybe I'm
Regardless,
wrong.
They're not designed to be rentals.
But there's a lot of sneakiness going on. And I know of people that have been sneaky where they are actually living somewhere else in their primary residence and they are renting this thing under the table.
Yes.
No one's checking.
Right.
And that would be, it's fraudulent.
Yeah.
There's fraud happening in the
That's
affordable
not the intention of the program. So
surprise, there's fraud happening in the affordable housing program.
Oh boy.
Well, all right. So there's a couple things you wanted to talk about and that are also hidden behind the scenes. And what's your take on as-is listings? Okay, so let's talk about as-is listings.
Okay.
But before we get into it, for our audience,
Yeah.
describe what is an as-is listing.
Okay, so this is a little tricky. Sometimes you see listings and there are notes that the home is being sold strictly as is. A lot of times these are estate sales. Someone passed away, maybe their adult children inherited the house. They don't want to be bothered with making any repairs. We all get that. So they say home being sold strictly as is. Mostly, I think that means they don't want to have to be fixing a bad electrical outlet or a plumbing leak. Occasionally, you'll see one that just says seller will make no warranties, no concessions, and no repairs. And at that point, where does that leave you as the buyer? Because without a pre-inspection, how can you just convey a house and say, here, you make an offer, we're not going to change the price no matter what you find? I don't know how that is feasible to sell a home that way. Have you run into this?
No, many times.
Yeah.
So it's usually written in the private broker remarks, although sometimes it's in the public
Sure.
remarks, the public description. And what I usually tell my buyers is that it's got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
They don't want to fix anything.
Right.
So we're gonna negotiate with them and put it under contract.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna pay for inspections.
Right.
Because you're not gonna buy this without an inspection.
Of
I mean, you
course.
could, but
Especially
I
this.
can't imagine you would do that. So then you're gonna find out some bad things about the house.
Yeah.
And if there are deal killers, we can terminate.
Right.
Or we can submit the objection anyway.
Right.
And they could say, take a hike.
Yeah.
Or more likely, they're going to say, oh my God, the roof is bad and the
Right.
sewer line's bad.
Yeah.
And their agent's going to say, I told you we can't sell as-is listings.
Yeah.
So your options are fix the sewer line or the roof or credit for it.
Yeah.
Or you could do that for this buyer, or you could do it for the next buyer, because
Yeah.
I can't sell a house with a bad sewer line.
Right.
No one's going to buy the house if the roof is leaking
Right.
and the sewer line's bad. And at that point, the seller says, what's it going to cost me? And you negotiate, and they usually
And they
come to a
through.
number that
Yeah.
it works
Yes.
out. I just use it to set the expectation of our buyer that
Yeah.
you may end up spending $800 to $1,200 on inspections.
Yeah.
And go nowhere.
Right.
But you could still spend $800 to $1,200 on inspections and
That
go
can
nowhere.
happen anyway, for sure. But I think that sometimes it can be overwhelming for a buyer. And I think when this happened to me recently, which is why this was on my mind, the buyer was a first-time home buyer and a little nervous. And the home seemed like it had been well cared for and really just needed cosmetic updating. And we knew there was a possibility of other things coming up, but then it was like everything. It was the sewer line and the radon and the electrical panel and the aluminum wiring and with the seller saying they weren't going to give any concessions or make repairs. And so she didn't even ask. She just terminated. And now they're back on the market. And now, in theory, have to disclose this to the next person, right? Especially if now the agent has
It's not
actual
just theory,
knowledge.
It's legally required for the
It's
agent
legally
to disclose
required,
it.
but will they? I don't
Will
know.
exactly? Will they
Yeah.
actually disclose what they know?
They might not. So, and the home continues to sit. So I just think that it's not helping you. Like if you have a seller who is telling you that they want to list as is, and I think this is something that people who don't work in real estate just think is a thing, that you can say, we're selling as is, we're not making any repairs. And that just is not something that really exists in our market.
Okay, so I kind of feel like because we are delving into some legal issues,
Yeah.
it's important to say that what we're talking about relates to the state of Colorado.
Sure.
And that in a state that is outside Colorado, this may or may not apply.
This may not be the same,
Okay?
yeah.
But in the state of Colorado, the commission-approved contract actually says the home is conveyed in
As is, correct.
where is condition.
Yes, that's right.
Subject to
To inspect
anything else in the contract. And the contract does give the buyer the right to inspect and does give the buyer the right to object. And then buyer and seller have to reach an agreement
Yeah.
on what's reasonable to resolve it. And if you market your home as is condition,
Yeah.
you could have exactly what happened to your situation,
Yeah.
which is the buyer doesn't even bother submitting an objection. They
Right.
just terminate.
It was just too much.
There's no
Yeah.
there's no opportunity to resolve the issues
Right.
because of the expectation that the seller is going to be that unreasonable.
Yeah.
We're about to close a deal with, I think I can mention this. I mean, I don't think this deal's about to blow up, but you never know. We're a few days away.
Yeah.
On Monday, we close a deal with John Hatch, and he's been fantastic
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in communication
He's
the
great.
whole way through. And in the additional provisions of the counter, he wrote in some language that was very granular about the seller will not address cosmetic issues
Right.
or deferred maintenance, which I
interesting.
thought was very interesting because most repair issues arise from deferred maintenance,
for
right?
sure.
And at the end of the day, it didn't dissuade our buyer at all. We encouraged her to do her due diligence, to do the inspections, get the secondary inspections done by the specialists
Yeah.
as recommended by the inspector. And then we went through the process of what is reasonable and fair and what is not reasonable and fair. How do you Like when you get this giant list of inspection items, we're going to disregard, like we're not going to completely disregard what we wrote.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we did say we're not going to object to cosmetic or deferred maintenance.
Yep.
But these are major repairs that have showed up, and we prioritized it 3 to 5 items, and we submitted that, and the seller took it seriously. And I think because they have a great agent, they can't hide from this.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's either deal with it with this buyer, and if we can't come to terms with this buyer, then you have to deal with it on your own on the next buyer, or repair it before you relist it.
Exactly, and that's a big negotiation tactic, I think, on the buy side. And really, a good listing agent should be having the same conversation with their seller that, okay, the buyer discovered the sewer line needs to be replaced. Like, you can say no, but then the next buyer is going to come along and find the same bad sewer line and want it replaced. So eventually, you're probably going to have to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's not with this buyer, it's with the next buyer. So a lot of times, that conversation should be taking place. But I think if you do have a seller who really wants to sell strictly as is, maybe they live out of the country, this is an estate sale, I think a $700 home inspection could help you. And if you can present that, and you've talked about this, Osman, with like the California approach, that whole the
California model.
Pre-inspect, let people view the inspection, tell them to inspect on their own before they even write the offer, and then write the offer.
Right, exactly.
And then
pre-inspect it and solve the problem for them, but choose an inspector that is reputable, that is well regarded.
Yeah.
And they may not even get an inspection. They probably will.
Yeah.
But they probably won't find anything new and that scary, especially if you repaired the things that showed up on your first inspection.
Yeah. Or just said, hey, here's what we know to be true. We know the sewer line needs replaced. Please offer accordingly.
Right. It builds trust in the transaction. It builds trust in the counterparty.
Yeah.
It makes the deal smoother. There is a way out if you want to sell it as is,
without
just dumping as is into the language, which is a market signal that this property is a train wreck.
Yes.
And you have a seller who doesn't want to deal with any of it. So your options are lowball them and truly take it as is, or sell it at what market value should be for the condition of the home.
Right.
And then still do your inspections and take the risk that they're completely non-negotiable.
Yeah.
But odds are they will be negotiable, especially if they have a good agent.
Right.
And that's where if they have a new agent, right? I often look up licensing to advise our clients on negotiation. And if they're recently licensed, I'm like, they may not be getting good advice at all. Oh. And so I don't know what to tell you about how this is going to go down.
Right.
I'll try to coach across the aisle, but it may not work.
Yeah.
And we may end up wasting a bunch of your money and not getting to the finish line.
That is a significant deal point, is who is on the other end of your contract. What how often do you advise sellers to do a pre-inspection before you list?
I tell them the pros and the cons, and then they choose. And that's my usual approach. This is the two sides to this story. And this is what we probably would do in this situation, but you need to make the decision.
Right.
And if the home is generally in good condition, and it depends on the market range, the price range of the home, we will even pay for a pre-inspection out of pocket because it resolves so many issues. And if we have time to get the repairs done with decent contractors, we will go that route and then present it to buyers when they come and look at the house, because it builds trust. The downside of this is that those buyers have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
They're not emotionally attached.
Right.
And so it's sort of like, and I use this analogy, it's sort of like you're going on a first date.
Yeah.
And this person's handing you a pile of their medical records and their bank statements.
Yeah, you might be killing the mood.
Their financial statements are all here. It's kind of like, wait a minute, we're just getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And there's a natural rhythm and order to a real estate transaction.
Right.
And the order, this is what I call the buyer journey. You probably call it the same thing. And then you walk into a house, they fall in love with the place.
Yeah, the emotional response
and
first.
they know they're ready to write an offer on this house within 60 seconds.
Right.
And then they're verifying things like, okay, all the compromises work, right? The bedroom and bath count, the layout, the location is going to work. And then they start talking about their furniture in the house, which is when I know we're going to write an offer. I don't need to. I don't need to wait. As soon as they start talking about their furniture being placed in the room, they've already made the decision of writing an offer. And then they're backfilling at the end with, okay, is the price right? That's the last thing we're doing, is looking at the pricing. And so the next phase is negotiating the price. And then the next phase of that is they've now spent some money to get their own inspection.
Right.
Now they have skin in the game. Now they feel more attached to the home. So it's up to you. If you want to circumvent that with trust and transparency being more valuable than the emotional journey of a buyer as their commitment grows through the transaction process, that's fine.
Right.
It really helps, but it also could take the romance out of this.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I just don't like surprises in general. My husband jokes that, I was like, please don't ever throw me a surprise party. I like to be in control. Like, you might be able to tell that about me. I was like, I hate surprises.
So what is out of control for you?
What with the inspection?
Yeah, no, just in general. Like when you don't like
in a
being,
surprise party,
or
not
in general.
knowing who's going to be there or being properly prepared. I don't like being caught off guard in general, and that goes for birthday surprise parties, and it goes for inspections. On my listings, I don't encourage sellers to pre-inspect across the board at all. Just for the record, I think a lot of times I'm pushing them to pay for repairs, getting the house ready, pay for painting, pay for staging, and by the time we're ready to list, and I'm like, maybe we should do a pre-inspection. They're just done. They don't want to pay for that, knowing the buyer is going to come and do that anyway.
I mean, it's early in the process that we recommend the pre-inspection.
Smart.
Like if we're 3 months away from listing, it's time to pre-inspect. If we're trying to get this listed in a month, there's really not, unless there's obvious issues that I can see, then it probably doesn't make sense to pre-inspect. Totally. Spend the money and time on decluttering, painting, staging.
And then you just deal with it when it comes up. And in theory, right, if you pre-inspect and find something desperately needs repair, you're dealing with it anyway. So maybe it's okay to let the buyer discover things and ask, but I'm just curious how you handle that, and just with this buyer in particular who is still out looking now. I'm trying to get property disclosures ahead of time, trying to really have a good understanding for her, like what this house is probably going to need before we move forward.
I mean, so some of that is also part and parcel with an older home.
Yeah.
And if aluminum, so if they have kids, I'm always checking to make sure they're cool with homes that were built before 1979.
Sure.
Because lead paint and human development are not they don't play well. And most people are fine with it, but I don't want them to be surprised by it in the inspection process or the contract process.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we have the conversation before we go too far down the road of looking at houses. Sure. Maybe we shouldn't look at anything that was built before 1979. And then we also talk about things like asbestos and mold and radon, because those are common environmental issues. Yeah. And there are also issues with newer homes. Mold is more likely in a newer home because of the tight air sealing in a newer home. So all of that helps us kind of set expectations. But aluminum wiring, I've never had a deal break up over aluminum wiring because you can mitigate it with pigtailing.
You can resolve it, but it's expensive. And sometimes the seller doesn't want to do it. So it has come up a few times. I think the seller has always ended up paying for it, whether it was my seller or my buyer, but because it can be resolved. But most things can.
Most can, but some things are not fixable.
Yeah.
Right.
Bad foundation issues.
Foundation issues usually can be repaired, but then you incur the cost of that forever.
Right.
Because when you go to resell it.
Painted,
Right. Now it's got taint. Exactly. Right. It's got a history of having a bad foundation. You have the engineer's letter, but boy, now you have to sell that to somebody. It's a hurdle.
I know.
But for the right location and a home that is emotionally appealing, it has high curb appeal, it functionally works, almost all issues are resolvable. Location is the one that's not.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You just can't, you can screen it.
Yeah.
But you're forever subject to the train line or the yellow line street or whatever it is.
I think we're touching on this with one of our sales of the week later as well.
Are we? Oh yeah, don't forget we have sales of the week.
Right.
We might want to jump in.
We might want to.
Do you want to move on with this? Well, hold on. Like there were a couple of other things that we were. Well, I guess we could save these for. We were going to talk about cameras and surveillance and listings, and then we're going to talk about how to work with people that really want you to reveal all of your techniques and strategies, but aren't ready to commit. Like how do you balance establishing trust? So let's go there. How do you deal with the person that just wants to date you and doesn't, and still date a whole bunch of other people, but wants to know your secrets of the trade?
There's a book that I think we were talking about earlier called The Full Fee Agent that talks about this, about knowing how to tell right away when you walk into a house if you are the sucker or if you are going to be their agent. And a lot of times people have made up their mind. They have already maybe even signed with another agent to list their home. And they really just want reassurance that they're making the right decision by hearing you give them a similar list price, hearing you give them similar advice about whether or not to paint their window trim white, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're kind of just there to give them free advice. And it is hard to know beforehand. Sometimes you can tell when you walk in, but it's hard to know beforehand if you're the listing agent or you're the sucker.
Yeah, I've had that so many times, and the book is literally right here. We have the book in the office. I bought it for the team this year, and it is a great book.
Yeah.
And I have been the sucker enough times to now know when this is what's happening.
Can you tell ahead of time though, or do you just tell when you walk in the door?
So sometimes the author actually says, Jeff Foss, is it Jeff Foss? Chris Foss. Chris Foss actually says you should resolve this in a 15-minute phone call.
Right. Okay.
That you should not actually schedule a meeting with these people unless you actually have a shot at the business, the listing, or representing them as a buyer's agent. I will meet with people. I'm not that aggressive.
Yeah.
And I'm not that protective of time. I think people need to meet with me personally to get a sense of who I am and how we work together. And I feel like I have some natural disadvantages I have to overcome. And this is going to be a little edgy, but I'm just going to say it. I think people that have a foreign sounding name and have darker skin have more hurdles to have to overcome. And so as a consequence, and this is going to sound political, okay, but I'm just going to say it.
Say it.
Like Barack Obama is incredibly charismatic, incredibly presidential. His biggest controversy was wearing a brown suit.
Yep.
And I think he outperformed because he had to be successful.
Yeah.
And I feel like meeting people in person overcomes some of their hesitancy with working with somebody who looks and sounds, at least my name sounds like it. So I don't mind. I will make the extra effort to meet with somebody in person. But sometimes I'll start getting a feeling like, wait a minute, we're not ready to commit yet. So I will set expectations.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to go look at homes before we had to do buyer agency agreements day one, I would say we're going to do this 3 times.
Yeah.
On the 3rd date, it's time to make a commitment to me or we're done.
Yeah.
And I can't just keep taking you out and looking at homes because I have other clients and I'm sure you're considering other agents. So I need you to make your decision within the first 3
Do you
meetings.
think they are? You think someone who spent that much time with you on the buy side is considering another agent still?
By the 3rd time, they've usually made their
they're with
decision,
you.
but I need them to sign at that point, I need the buyer agency.
Right.
Because
We've
I lost
seen that
enough.
before, haven't we? Like once, I think since I've been here, we've had a client just be like, bye.
Yeah, well, you've seen it because we now have a system. But when I first got into the business, I did not have a system, and I got used quite often to be the sucker.
Right.
And this summer, I had an interesting situation, and she may be listening to this podcast, and I'm okay with that. Where we have met once or twice, we've looked at a home together. She has called and we've emailed, and I've basically had to tell her because she's hinted several times that they have a family member. Or they have a friend of a family who just got his license and he's been bugging her for the listing. And I said, well, why don't you list with them then?
Yeah.
Because at this point, this is where we're going to stop.
Right.
I'm more than happy to advise you with unlimited, like we're not talking any cut, like no caps on my time. I will come to your house. We'll go through every room of the house. We'll do that repeatedly and I will give you a PowerPoint presentation. That's part of our standard practice. And that's usually 50 plus slides on room by room, how you should improve your home to prepare it for sale. But that comes after you've made the commitment.
100%.
And you're still at I might use my friend's kid who's 20 years old.
Right.
And I'm not competing with that guy.
Right.
If you're choosing to use that person out of loyalty, great. I
Yeah.
wish you luck. But we need to stop meeting because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And, I feel like I may have offended her, but at the same time, I'm okay with that because if that was her approach was to use me for information, there's a limit to how many times you get me for free.
Even the first visit, though, I think sometimes I used to go in on the first visit, especially if you know that person is probably working with you. And we do go through the whole house and we do go room by room and talk about, moving the bed over here and a white comforter on this bed and whatever else. And I think I've had to sort of draw a line, like split it into 2 phases. And the first phase is coming. You have to show some value. You can't just walk in and be tight-lipped and be like, I am not revealing anything until you sign a contract with me. So presenting comps and a CMA and a comparative market analysis, suggesting a list price or at least a range of a list price, and maybe some basic repairs for the home. But my room by room consultation is for sure now after a listing contract has been signed.
Yeah. It's tough to balance those things. I agree with you. You have to demonstrate value.
You have to show value.
You have to demonstrate competency. And it isn't that hard with neighborhood comps to have looked up what's sold in the last 6 months.
And probably
in
the seller has an idea of what it should
for
sell for.
sure they know.
Yeah.
And so if you can mention a few addresses and the prices and also your approach. So I don't know how you price homes, but I don't think this is secret sauce, but I'll just share how we do it.
Yeah.
We'll give them a general range at that first meeting and at the listing agreement being signed. But the final pricing is subject to when we are going live.
100%.
And that means you have to see the competition.
Right.
And the part that I don't think most agents do this, that drives me crazy.
Preview properties.
Yeah, they don't preview because I'll have a competitor and suddenly there'll be a new competitor pop up on the market.
And they've never shown
and I'm
your
like, this
property.
person's never shown the listing. Or they felt like they had to sneak and see the listing with a different name, like a different agent scheduled it, then showed it. Like that happens because you're allowed to have like Hamish will cover showings for me when I can't do it. It'll be scheduled under my name. So sometimes that happens with teams. But I think more than likely people are not actually seeing the competition. They're pricing blind.
Right.
And so right before we go live and the 3 days before we're finalizing the listing, like we send them the draft listing, we have the placeholder price. I will go see the competition and I will invite the seller to come see it. If I feel like they're not going to get it unless they see it.
Yeah.
And at that point, we really have dialed in our pricing and we have moved our our expected price $50,000 either way.
Yeah.
And more often we're moving it up, not down, because the competition that looks so good in the photos
Sure.
has all these problems
Right. It's not
that we
actually so good.
couldn't see
Yeah.
until we went and walked in the door.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, what looked like a high-end kitchen
Yeah.
is lipstick on a pig.
Absolutely.
It's an old kitchen that
For
they
sure.
painted really well,
For
and
sure.
it fooled me with the photos.
Yeah.
And now with AI, we're really getting fooled with photos.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on board with that too. And I think a lot about this market is pricing to active comps, not just sold comps, because sometimes the sold comps are telling the story of the past. They're not telling where the market's going, where it's headed, and that can be up or down. And so I like to tell sellers, like, okay, we're going to pretend to be a buyer right now in the $500,000 to $600,000 range in Longmont for a single family home. Like, let's go see what they're going to be looking at and how they're going to compare this property to the other ones that we're looking at. And let's see, like, we want to be, the best option. So for the price and for the way it's presented, we want them to see all these 5 properties and pick ours. And sometimes that pricing depends more on those active comps than what their neighbor's house sold for.
Right, absolutely.
A few months
It just
ago.
has to make sense. So they have to feel the emotional pull of wanting this house.
Yeah.
And then they have to look at the pricing and say, oh yeah, this price totally
Right,
makes sense.
totally.
I don't feel like I'm getting gouged.
Yeah.
Like I get why the price is where it's at.
Sure.
And if you've overpriced it, all you did was sell your competitor's house.
Yes.
And if you grossly underpriced it, you probably left money on the table,
Right.
and you might be going to cocktail parties saying, oh my God, I got 12
I know.
offers the first weekend. My
Right,
agent's so
right.
smart. And you're like, no, your agent underpriced
No.
it by $300,000,
I know,
and
but-
you don't know,
I
and they
know.
may not know either. They may have done it by accident.
Yeah.
But that is not a successful agent. That is a screw up.
No.
Especially right now. Back in 2022, everything was getting bidding wars.
Yeah.
But today,
It's just not how it's working. There's a few things out there getting bidding wars, but they're limited. They're few and far between.
if you're getting a surprise, the bidding war should never be a surprise.
Right.
I feel like your agent should tell you, look, there's 20 to 25% probability we'll get more than one offer. We've done our homework,
Yeah.
and we've priced it right. We've
Right.
seen the competition. If you get 12 offers,
Yeah.
you have underpriced it. Like something is not
Something's
right.
wrong. Yeah, exactly. We've missed that one.
That's at least my take on it.
I think there's always the chance. I've seen this happen before with sellers too, where you price it right, you present it right, you get one full price offer right away, first weekend, and the seller says we underpriced it,
Right. That's what they should be
and you're like, no,
saying.
this is perfect though.
That's-
One full price offer right away means we did everything just right.
It's a legit strategy to
Yeah.
underprice, but
For
it
sure.
should be a conscious strategy. It should be deliberate, not an accident. And sometimes you got to get it sold quick, and that's the price it low, let's
Yeah.
get it sold quick
Right.
approach. But not in all price points and locations, right? There's this concept called depth of market, and if your depth of market is very thin, meaning that there's only, let's say, 3 buyers right now that are shopping in the $5+
Right.
million category.
Sure.
Pricing it intentionally low
Yeah.
could just be a recipe for leaving a lot of money on the table,
Yeah.
particularly with luxury pricing. People expect the price to be, frankly, overpriced.
Right.
Like that's the norm.
And very flexible, right? Because people have no problem on a $5 million, $4 million house offering $500,000 below asking.
Right. They should.
Aspirational.
Right.
That's where you end.
aspirational pricing.
Aspirational pricing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Hamish. That's
but
right.
in that price, sometimes I think in that price range, it's like they're just like throwing a dart at the wall. Like there's so much movement in what you can price a home at sometimes in the higher numbers that
Sorry.
sometimes I don't know how they're pricing. And I think sometimes with these nicer custom homes in those price ranges, it is just harder to compare. They're not
They're
apples to
really
apples.
unique properties, and,
Exactly.
and there are selling points in it that potentially could convince a buyer that is not familiar with our market, somebody who is very affluent moving into our community, that, oh man, this is, especially if it's a very charismatic agent with a lot of ego, they can be convincing that maybe this home really is worth $15 million. But then, surprise, surprise, a month later, they've dropped the price to $9 million. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they were shaking out the dumb money.
Right, exactly.
And now that the dumb money is established, they're not out there.
Yeah, the dumb money
we're
is-
coming back to the what
Back to
real
reality.
pricing should be on this home, and it's still aspirational.
Right.
But it's no longer there's like the dumb money phase, and then there's the aspirational normal
Right.
phase.
Yeah.
And sometimes the dumb money phase is 2 weeks, sometimes it's 2 months. Sometimes it takes a while for the seller to realize it just ain't happening.
Or the price is right, but it's just going to take a year to sell because there aren't that many buyers in that price
right.
point.
It might be a very thinly
You might have
traded
priced
market.
it just right.
You might have.
There's just a lot on the market, and there's one buyer every 6 months who's showing up for that price point.
But then you should still be at that point, right? If you've been on the market several months, I believe you should just price it right.
Yeah.
Just get rid of the make-believe price and
Right.
go with probably about right, maybe 10%, 15% above market. We're talking about the luxury segment,
Sure.
but not 50% above market,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Like, can we get to reality? There's
Right,
never been a
exactly.
sale at this price point in
Right.
Boulder County.
Yeah.
Like, and yes, you thought yours was the one that would
Yeah.
set the price record forever. It ain't happening.
Right.
So we need to come back a little bit
Yeah,
to
to
reality,
reality.
and then we may still be waiting 2 years.
Right.
And that's one of the things with the ultra high end, and we saw this on Nantucket, where listing agents would charge up front for marketing fees.
Sure.
And have a multi-year listing
Yeah.
agreement because they don't even know if this is going to sell, and you could change your mind, and they don't want to have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases
Yeah.
for this ultra luxury segment, marketing
Right.
something for a multi-year period just to have you change your mind.
Yep.
So that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's negotiable, as
Yeah.
all things
Right.
are in real estate. I think we should finish up with
Okay. Yeah, let's move on.
these behind the scenes things that buyers and sellers don't realize
Okay.
are happening.
Yeah.
And let's talk about surveillance cameras and what
okay.
your experience has
Oh
been.
boy. I mean, I think we're seeing it more and more. I'm sure you are too. And this is not just the Ring doorbell. I'm sure sellers are watching the Ring doorbell to see who's coming into their home. I hear stories about it all the time. But when you walk in and there's actually cameras in the house on you, I feel like it changes the vibe. And it makes people uncomfortable, almost to the level of if you walked in, the seller was sitting there, which I've also had happen. I'm sure you have too. Surprise seller in the house. It makes people feel like they can't speak freely and they can't make themselves at home. And the whole idea is you want them to be able to envision themselves in the home as if it's theirs. And I think that camera really is disruptive, at least for my buyers. And do you also warn them not to speak freely when you see that?
Absolutely. Oh, even if we don't see them.
Yeah.
I tell them, if you're excited about the house, that's great. Try to keep it tampered down.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about strategy and negotiation, whether
Yeah.
or not we see a camera,
Right.
let's do it in the car.
Outside, yeah.
Let's do it up the block.
Right.
Let's not do it in front of the house.
Right.
or
Not even in the
house,
driveway. Yeah.
Because it compromises us.
Yeah, I think so too. You're sort of revealing your hand.
Now there may be a time that we want to create human connection, and it's if you're on the listing side, it sometimes is a good idea to meet the buyer
Yeah.
before the end of their inspection.
Sure.
Drop by. You had a drop by for some reason.
Yeah.
You had milk in the car, and now you're out of there.
Yeah.
And you meet them as humans.
Yep.
Because when you meet people as humans, you're far less likely to behave inappropriately in the inspection process.
Yes,
You feel a little
for
guilt.
sure.
Good people feel bad about treating other good people badly.
Yeah.
And so that's just a general operating principle. So in some cases, we've encouraged a seller to meet the buyer.
Yeah.
And in some cases, we've encouraged the buyer to meet the seller because we knew we were in a bidding war.
Yeah.
And we knew that
It would help.
This is a deal that happened on Berea in Table Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
This is like 10, 12 years ago. I won't mention the name of the buyers, but I will say that when we pulled up, we knew it was going to be a bidding war because of the price point. And we looked at the house, and the house was dated, had all sorts of problems. But the gardens were really unusual in this house. Like all around the house were really well-tended gardens. And it was an estate sale.
Yeah.
And as we were leaving, we noticed there was this little old lady watering the plants in the
yeah.
corner of the garden. And I pulled my clients aside and I said to them, I can't do this, okay? Because I have a real estate license.
But you should go say hi.
But you know, if you accidentally go say hi to the
Yeah,
seller and
right.
let them know how much you love the house
Yeah.
and who you are and
Yeah.
that you have kids, I bet you I bet you she grew up in this house
Yeah.
based on how long this house has been owned by this one family. I think there were original owners in Table Mesa. And sure enough, it was. It
Yeah.
was the one of the adult 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
And there were other offers, including developers that were paying cash.
Yeah.
And they went with our offer, even though it was
Because of
lower
that. Yeah.
than the others that came in. and it really turned into an arm wrestling contest among the adult children.
Yeah.
And 2 of the sisters paid the brother the difference
Oh my God.
to make the deal happen.
Wow.
Because they did not want to sell it to a developer. They
Yeah.
wanted to sell it to a family, and they found the perfect family for the house.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt an emotional connection to our clients. And they were like, and think about it, in your 60s and 70s or 80s,
Yeah.
do you really care about that incremental $5,000 or $10,000?
Yeah, exactly. It's been paid off for years.
That it's just you resent your brother for
Yeah.
making you pay them,
Right.
Right, like that's more about the family
that's
conflicts,
their business, yeah.
right, that come up in real estate
Right.
transactions. But it worked. So
Yeah.
there are times that you want to meet, but on a
Yes.
camera, walking into the house feels so icky.
It feels weird.
And on a first showing, the seller being there and not leaving,
Yeah, that's
is
rough
very
too.
icky.
I know.
It's often that they're running out the door and they just wanted to say hi and they walk out the door. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I have had it happen. It's usually that, maybe it's someone who doesn't fully understand. Maybe their agent hasn't briefed them on the importance of actually leaving the house and not just hiding in the basement. I have been given a heart attack almost by finding a seller sitting in a dark basement, like trying to hide from
Right.
us in a
Hiding.
house.
hide and seek in their house.
was brutal.
College students hiding under the covers.
College students who
in
just don't
a
leave.
condo.
Oh,
They're, like,
there's nothing I hate more than
pretending that I'm like, there's a body under that bedspread, and I know they're in this
waking
house,
someone up.
and it's weird.
I mean, do you walk
It's
up to a closed bedroom door and take a deep breath? Because I do.
I
I'm
always
like,
knock.
Oh.
I knock.
I always
even,
knock too.
I knock
and then
when we go
open
in the house,
carefully.
even though I'm running doorbell, and I knock at every door that's closed because I do not want to catch somebody by surprise.
So I had a buyer last year looking at houses in Longmont, and we went into one that was nice. He liked it, and we saw the camera sitting on the counter. It was very obvious, and but we weren't saying anything bad. We walked through the house. He was an older gentleman, and he had some concerns about the laundry being in the basement. And we walked through, and I sent some feedback, I think, just saying, might be interested. And the next day, the agent texted me and said, hey, my sellers would be willing to move the laundry upstairs if that would help your buyer make an offer. And it was so upsetting to me that I had mentioned that.
Yeah.
We hadn't mentioned that in the feedback or on the phone. It was a full-on, they had been watching us, heard him express some concerns about it. How lovely for them to offer to do so, but it freaked them out.
I've heard the real estate commission advice that buyers there's an expectation of privacy, and you potentially can get yourself into some legal trouble. And I have seen some people leave signs recording is happening in the home, but it just creates an awful feeling.
It's icky.
And so, but I just assume it's happening anyway, and maybe the cameras are hidden.
I think
so
best
better
practice.
To just not talk about the house.
Don't talk about
and
what you're
wait till
planning
you're
to
outside.
offer.
And I'll say, I lost my train of thought. But also, so cameras in the house are a little bit strange for sure.
Yeah.
How about like the listing agent accompanied showings?
That's okay, I think. And it just depends on the type of property. Sometimes that can be really beneficial if it is a complex property, or certainly some of the higher end properties. And it helps to have someone there to show you the ins and outs of it and really get a good showing. But I don't know. How do you feel
It
about
also
it?
helps us spy on the buyers.
Right.
And so we really know whether the buyer's excited or not because we can read their body language, even though they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
And if they're acting evasive, they probably really like it. So we do the tour and then we leave on the high end listings.
Yes.
And I think that's incredibly beneficial. We make sure the lights are on, we make sure the lights are off, and the property's locked up when it's closed.
Yeah.
But we also try not to hang out. There's this, let me open the doors, let me be warm and bubbly. And I have actually seen my buyers fall so in love with the listing agent who was adorable, attractive, bubbly, effervescent personality. We walk out and they're like, we love that house. And I'm like, we're at the car. I'm like, there's nothing about that house that matches our search criteria.
Right.
I'm just going to be
She
blunt.
sold it. Yeah.
She doesn't come with the house.
Right, by the way.
You're not getting her. You're only getting the house. She's great. I'm in love with her too.
Yeah.
But you're not getting her. And so they're like, oh, well, I guess maybe you're right. It's really her that we like. And I'm like, I know. I'm the bummer of an agent pointing out everything wrong with the house, right? And when you love one, I'm like pushing back on you. And she's like bubbly and effervescent. And what a breath of fresh air after Osman's grumpiness all day about what's wrong with these houses.
And how many great things about this house they're highlighting.
Right. Oh, yeah. They're highlighting all the positive things. So there is a benefit to a human, and there's a huge negative to cameras.
Yeah.
But I expect the camera at the doorbell. It's the camera inside that's the most problematic, and we deal with it. I usually tell my sellers, look, remove your drugs, remove your valuables, and expect people to leave lights on, toilets unflushed. It's part of showing a house. It sucks. We're going to do our best to minimize your period of showing so that you're not tortured for months on end. That's why it's so important to prep the house the right way. But at the end of the day, this is the sucky part of selling a house is strangers in your home on short notice. And spying on them is not the answer to feeling better. So you will
take your valuables. Although I've never had an issue. Have you with valuables?
I personally have not, but I've heard enough stories that it's just not worth it. So if there's something particularly high end, we should just get it out of the house.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
And
same with like degrees and personally identifying things. You kind of don't. You build kind of a profile of who the seller is based off of the bookshelf and all these things, and then you can get their actual name off of the diploma that they've got on the wall.
Yeah.
It might be beneficial, right? Like if you're selling a home, this is all about identifying who your target client is. And if it's a home close to the university and the person you realize that the buyer could be affiliated with the university, having some educational books and maybe your diploma on the wall creates this sort of academic vibe. But most of the time, it's not a great idea. And the worst idea is to leave like religious stuff up. It doesn't matter what the religion is, with one exception.
What's that?
People like the Buddhist stuff. The Buddhist stuff is universally acceptable. Put a Buddha in the wall, it's totally fine. No one's offended by the Buddhas, but everything else is offensive. It's just somebody
in the yard too. Like.
All right, I think we've covered our cameras, right? Feel good about that?
I think we're.
Is it time to move on to sales of the week?
Let's move on.
It's time for sales of the week.
Yay!
Do you want to go low to high or high to low?
Let's go high to low.
All right, high to low. Okay, the first one is 210 Cactus Court. And this property just closed on July 24th for $6.13. From a location perspective, you are looking at the northwest corner of Wonderland Hills, so just southwest of the lake, and originally listed at 6.75 in March of 2023, so really 3 years on market.
Yeah.
I did not look to see if they stuck with their agent the whole time, but that's a long time to be on market. They didn't cut it in 2023 at all. They cut the price, first time was in 2024 to 6.5, and that's what it was listed for in February, 6.5 when it hit the market in February this year. And it didn't go under contract till June 11th, and it closed for 6.13. So
they weren't far off.
370 something below their last list price.
I liked this house. We'd sort of joked about the first photo being the master bedroom, the primary bedroom, and I think that was to highlight the views, and that maybe that meant that the curb appeal wasn't so great. But I actually liked this house.
What did you like about it?
I liked the architecture, and especially the interior. It was the right vibe for what I like. It had sort of that mix of like exposed wood beams and natural tones, which I really like, while still having that kind of modern, contemporary look.
It's what I think of as a resto mod, right? It's a home built in the 70s, so it's got the bones of a home in the 70s, but then they've done so much work to it.
Yeah.
Like they've opened it up with steel beams, and clearly every finish has been touched inside and out. It's nothing like it was in the 70s. Much bigger windows, dark trim, white out on the walls, natural wood tones.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. We were critical about that first photo because it just seemed like, why would you lead with a master bedroom photo?
I think it's that view out the window that they're trying to highlight. If you look closely at that photo.
Yeah, that's probably what they were trying to do. But most of the time when you don't see the curb shot or an aerial shot, it's because the house is ugly. And so leading with the first photo, that's usually when it's not showing that, that's immediately a perception that you're now going to have to overcome. Yeah. But I think they're trying to hint at that with the little, the monocular, the scope in the window. But boy, there's some really pretty shots. Like the one shot of the sunset with the deck, I think is a spectacular lead shot. So I don't know, I'm being critical of the marketing. But the house itself is
I think the house is nice.
Great location. Yeah. This is the equivalent of waterfront property. When you are butted up against the open space. And in this case, you're right off the trail, right?
Yeah, fantastic
You've got your own little social trail onto the Wonderland Lake Trail. Yeah. And you can easily hop on a bike and head downtown. 6,000 square feet is probably a little on the bigger side. I think the one really rare thing about this is the 4-car attached garage.
Well, so it looks like it's a combination of attached and detached if you look at the photos. Oh. I think it's hard to differentiate that on our MLS. But it's like a 2-car attached garage, a 2-car detached garage, and a carport. Do you see that?
I'm looking to
it's kind of a strange
photos. I'm trying to get to the photo there. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's still, I think garage space is a premium for sure. People really value that right now.
Well, it's just rare to have that many garage spaces. Yeah. And it's not just for cars, it's for bicycles,
exactly.
It's for other equipment.
Toys.
Yeah, this has got both. It's got 2 garages.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
You think in the future ADU potential on top of that little
potentially
detached thing?
I mean, 30,000 square foot lot, you would think that you could do that. Mm-hmm. And that brings up an interesting future for Boulder with all of the rules changing for ADUs and duplexes by right.
Right.
And with such a big lot, they are going to try to reduce subdivisions. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that is successful or not, but there's definitely going to be a building boom. Yeah. And a nice big lot on the west side of the open space is...
I mean, you're probably not going to go try to build a duplex there, but...
Probably not. It's you're also subject to height limits and all sorts of other things, and this is on the hillside. Yeah. A spectacular property, but I just imagine the seller, they listed it 3 years ago. Yeah. And this is where reality really flies in the face of all the fluffy marketing you see from luxury agents, where it's all sexy and fun and playful and pizzazz, and they love to highlight their successes, but they don't tell you about the 3 years it took to get the house sold. And that's what it took in this particular case.
I mean, how many $6 million buyers are there out there really in Boulder? And I know we support those kinds of big numbers here. If you're listening somewhere outside of Boulder, maybe this sounds shocking, but I think even like, the $3 to $5 million price point in Boulder is probably more of a popular price range day to day. Does $6 million just take 3 years to sell?
Well, let's just look at the data right now. So I'm gonna pull up.
I figured you were going to do
and
this.
I'm not going to share screen, but I'm just going to do.
Teed them up.
I teed them up to just pull this data.
So I'm just going to pull the data. I'm doing my map of Boulder proper, with full disclosure that there are little pockets of unincorporated
Palo
Boulder
Park.
County that are in here. Palo Park, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's not absolutely accurate, but I'm looking at City of Boulder. How many active $6 million plus listings do you think we got right now?
Oh, how many 6 million plus at the moment?
That are just on the market in the City of Boulder.
Cue
dozen?
Jeopardy music,
12?
15.
Okay.
All right. What's your number for how many are under contract?
1.
Goose egg.
1.
Oh.
Yeah. So what is, 1 out of 15 homes, 14 disappointed sellers sitting there wondering, why is my house not selling?
Right. Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
Is there one buyer a year?
Yeah. That's one buyer a year.
Right.
If you consider that that's the pace. We didn't look at how many sales happened. All right, let's answer that question.
Okay.
How many sales in the last year?
We literally have years of inventory versus months of inventory.
Is that on? Probably.
It sounded so good.
I'm sure it sounded. That was Hamish dropping his mic. Okay, sales in the last year, 7. So 15 represents
about 2 years of inventory.
2 years of inventory, which is actually where the high end was in trouble during the global financial crisis. We had over 2 years of inventory back then, 2007, 2008. Yeah, at the high end.
Yeah.
At the high end at that time was like above $1.5 million.
Right.
Now we're looking at 7
different
million
numbers
plus,
now.
right?
I know.
So, but yeah, that's 2 years of inventory for $6+ million houses.
Okay, so that's what you should be preparing your $6 million sellers for.
Or
2 years on the market.
Okay, let's look at 1206 West Pine, and this is one you chose, Louisville.
Yeah.
And it's a Marshall Fire rebuild.
It is a Marshall Fire.
Tell us about
so
the house.
This is in the Enclave in Louisville. So this is a really cool neighborhood with high-end custom homes. They pretty much all burned in the Marshall Fire and have been rebuilt. But I think now that I can't believe we're 5 years past the Marshall Fire.
Has it been 5 years?
It'll be 5 years at the end of December.
Maybe we should tell people what the Marshall Fire is.
If you don't know what the Marshall Fire was, it was one of the most destructive fires in Colorado history that swept through. It was December 30th, 2021, and it burned 1,100 structures in Superior, Louisville, and East Boulder County. It did an incredible amount of damage, and it happened out of nowhere. People did not expect it. We traditionally have wildfires here, and we think of them affecting mountain properties. It is rare to have something come sweep through our suburban downtowns and take out so many houses. So this particular pocket of Louisville, a lot of the homes border Davidson Mesa, which has great views, good trails.
It's a bit of a perch too, right? Like a lot of these houses have some great views.
Yeah. Or not. I mean, you talk a lot about, with Balsam and some of these neighborhoods, some have great views and some have none. So this one in particular, it backed to Davidson Mesa, but there was an empty lot next door, and depending on what someone builds on that lot next door, that could obstruct some of your views. They might not be fully protected in that sense. And then as many people did, they built very custom homes around their needs. And so this home was beautiful, but it had a couple very custom things about it that I noticed. And I went to a broker open, so I chatted with the agent, who was great. But for one, they did all tile throughout the whole main level, which is not something we see in Colorado. That's maybe more of a warm weather, Florida thing to use tile in your home. And it was fine Italian porcelain.
What looks like wood is actually porcelain tile?
All porcelain tile throughout that main level. So I thought that was a little bit unusual. And then the other weird thing is that it has a main level primary, but it's actually 2 primary bedrooms that share a primary bathroom. So it was confusing when I walked around, and the agent was like, oh yeah, that's a lot of older folks sleep in separate bedrooms, but they still want to share the bathroom. So it was an unusual setup.
It's 2 masters with a Jack and Jill bathroom.
Yes.
Primaries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
2. It's sort of like dual primaries, but they don't each have their own bathroom. They're connected by the primary bathroom. And one had sort of views to the mesa and the other one had none. So it was just an unusual layout. And without it being 2 separate primaries, like I was like, who's going to buy this with all the tile and with the dual primary situation? And it went under contract in 3 days?
Pretty fast. So officially 5 days, but often that means immediately because you don't have to change the status for 2 days.
Yeah.
And usually we're looking at 48 hours, even if the offer was submitted day 1.
Yeah.
And it sold for 2.875, listed at 2.9. Yeah.
I mean that's pretty darn close to
that's pretty darn close
list
to the list price. Yeah. I mean, it's a gorgeous house and a gorgeous location. Cash deal.
Yeah. As things are often in that.
Redfin buyer's agent.
I saw that. I thought that was interesting.
I hope they got their money's worth.
I hope so too.
And I mean, it's a great property, no argument. And I don't know
good location
about the valuation because I really, I always tell my clients, there's my gut instinct on value, right? I'll tell you how I feel about the value, but then if we're actually getting into valuation, I need to see the comps, and we will do that live because it's not just how I feel about it. I want to see the data, and you want to see the data because we can be fooled by finishes and design, and it could be completely overpriced, and somebody may have overpaid, which sometimes happens, quite often happens. Sure. But especially for a new listing. But this house, I mean, it's gorgeous. There's no argument. This is a gorgeous house.
It's a beautiful home in a great location. It's at the end of the road up there in Enclave, so you really do feel like you're protected. It's quiet, about as quiet as you can get, and farther from McCaslin. So it was a great location. I just thought that the quirkiness in some of the finishes of the house would cause it to sit longer, and I was impressed at how quickly it sold.
Well, I think there's something else I was going to say. At $553 a square, 5,200 square feet, it's only 3 years old.
Right.
It's basically a brand new house, and the cost to build, it's super rare to get things even anything under 400, and under 500 is even quite challenging. And this looks like it has really nice finishes. Yeah. So for the convenience of not having to build it yourself and this particularly great location, large lot. Yeah. I think it's a great deal and a beautiful house.
I think it illustrates, that again, some of those are now turning over. Now that we're hitting that 5-year mark past the fire, so it took a couple of years for everybody to rebuild, right? So we're sort of at 3 years past the rebuild time, and I think now we're starting to see some of them change over and sell, which is exciting.
The one thing I find just kind of funny about this listing is this particular photo. Right? There are mini splits.
Yeah.
I want to see.
There are Mitsubishi mini splits.
There's 4 of the compressor units.
There are 4 of them. And it says state-of-the-art HVAC system. And we're not talking about, geothermal or anything. Right. It's just heat pumps.
Heat pumps, which everyone put in after the fire.
Which everyone has put in. Yeah. And it's so funny to see it. I've never seen a listing highlight the heat pumps that are outside a house before.
That's hell of an install.
Hamish installed his own.
Oh, did you? That's impressive.
Oh, it was an undertaking. You might know, my friends now live in Louisville, and they were saying that after the fires, there was some controversy around these rebuild homes being out of spec for the permitting. Or
no, so there was the sprinklers. Zero. No, I think wasn't it about the?
I think size to the lot or something.
Well, that was a different situation in Boulder County, but so there was an exemption made. They had just passed new building code for
eco-friendly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm blocking the name for it right now. They had just passed a new building code, and then they agreed to basically make an exception for people who had lost their homes in the Marshall Fire, that they did not have to build to that 2021 code. They could build to the pre-2020 code when they rebuild as a grace. But if they sold the lot and someone else came in to build, they would have to build to the new code. So there was a little bit of controversy over that for a while. That I think what you're also referencing is Boulder County a few years ago passed a law about how big you can build on your lot based on the average size of the house in the neighborhood.
Oh, it had always been based on the average size, but you were allowed to exceed it to 120% before they put in that moratorium, and you could no longer exceed that median house size.
Okay, right.
Which is
a little more restrictive.
Yeah, basically, it's an anti-large house provision that's been in the county for a while.
Funny because East Boulder County is full of large acreage, 2-acre lots.
When these rules pass, they benefit the homeowners that have what they want,
right?
And they are a detriment if you expect it. If a large portion of your property value was its potential, it's a detriment to that.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that you knew all the nuance on.
Just having seen it and chatted with the agent about it, it was. I was surprised how quickly it sold and how much, but good for them.
Yeah, no. I mean,
maybe you know what the new two primary bedroom thing is like the new thing.
Sleep divorce is in.
The snore room. I keep hearing people talk about a snore room, like it's having sort of an extra room off your primary bedroom, so you can kick somebody out. This is a thing now.
The snore room. It's like being a doghouse.
It's like sleep is hard to come by,
No, it's sacred.
Exactly. No one's getting in the way.
I mean, I don't think there's been that many $2.9 million sales in Louisville, so I suspect this sets a benchmark for
I think that's the neighborhood it would happen in. So,
sure.
as far as $3 million homes, it's going to be
and downtown.
Downtown for some of those newer builds, for sure.
The newer builds, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. 1625 Mariposa Avenue in Floral Park, which is part of the Chautauqua neighborhood. Not in Chautauqua. I guess some people call this Lower Chautauqua. I'm not even 100% convinced it actually is technically Floral Park. That's just how it was described, because sometimes people conflate.
What would you call it? The interurban park?
It could be interurban. Like there's a bunch of little subdivisions in this location, but they're all basically the same, other than where our clients bought on Mariposa that backs to the. Hamish, do you remember the name of the subdivision? Are you looking it up?
I couldn't tell you.
That has the common area that all the teachers bought together. That I thought was Floral Park, but my brain is a little bit tired today, so I might have that wrong. But anyway, we know the location. It's solid spot, no argument. 2,340 square foot house built in 2023 as a listing. I don't know, is it really 2023?
No, so I looked up the public records, which say 1950.
1950, but effective year 2012.
Exactly, effective year 2012 in public records, so that's still not 2023.
Yeah.
There is a note in the listing about it having been completely reimagined and rebuilt, but I don't think it was torn down. So.
Yeah, she says effective age of construction is 2023. Okay. So, I mean, she's disclosing it. So you really have to ask yourself, well, what's the difference between what was there in 1950 and what's there today? Mm-hmm. And if it's taken down to the studs and rebuilt and to modern code, it could be effectively 2023. Sure. It is a one-story ranch, 2,340 square feet, and it's listed as no square footage in the basement. Is this right?
Is there not a basement?
I mean, it says the square footage is the same without the basement. So no basement. So it is a big
sprawling ranch.
It's a big sprawl, but it doesn't look like it from the front photo.
Yeah,
that's the part that's
quaint.
Confusing. It looks very quaint.
Yeah.
But it's a really big one-story ranch-style house that has been really nicely updated. So
that's in right now.
Fits what we were talking about before, that this is what buyers want is...
This is what people who are retiring, who have money, who are looking to age in place. This is what they want. This is what we're missing. Not the junky 1,000 square foot ranches, but this type of sprawling ranch, updated, good neighborhood, reasonable price point for Boulder.
All the finishes are on point. It looks very Nantucket with the shake
cedar
shingle on the outside
totally.
and the nautical theme inside. In some places, the color look very nautical to me.
The finishes are cute, I think. It's colorful and I don't know, it's fun.
No argument. And the warm tones are really pretty. It's got great outdoor entertaining areas. Like it's turnkey, buttoned up, ready to go. Only a one-car attached garage. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's not quite enough. But I guess, you're not really walkable to groceries, although I don't know how many people are really buying groceries without a car in Boulder, but you certainly can walk to Chautauqua.
I mean, there used to be a grocery store, and then Whole Foods remodeled it, and
it's still sitting empty.
And it's still empty. I know. Someday, I think there's going to be something amazing there, but
I think the West Side needs a grocery store beyond Lucky's, and I mean that part of the West Side of Boulder
for sure. I mean, I don't know where the students go. They probably go to the Safeway.
Yes, yeah.
That really scary, the sketchiest that's grocery in Boulder is the Safeway at 28th and Arapahoe.
Yeah, that's a scary market.
Okay, so it sold for 2.5. It was on the market for about 2 months. The listing agent double-ended. And interestingly, the buyer had acquired it for $2.325 in 2024. So, they made a little money after commissions. They did just fine.
Yeah. They didn't own it for very long.
I think it's actually a little on the small side for these rambling ranches.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm having this conversation with a client right now, and This house we're looking at is roughly 3,600 square feet, with 2,100 on the main and the rest in the basement, 1,000 in the basement. And he feels it's too big, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is actually, this 2,200 to 3,000 square feet, closer to 3,000. But once you start to get over 3,000 square feet on the main, I feel like it just might be too big for some people. Starts to be big. There's like a sweet spot and 3 bedrooms is also a little bit much because where's the office go?
Right.
You got a guest room and so it's a little bit tight.
A little on the small side.
But for sure there's a market for this and clearly.
And in that location, and it's quiet, it's on a good street, right? So you're not a compromised location.
No, great
location.
Would you say?
Yeah.
I mean, the social trail access to Chautauqua is fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And so that's a pretty good price point, I think, for the quality.
For the quality of this house, for sure.
Yeah.
They had to wait a couple of months to find the right buyer.
Sure.
And I think it's a very well bought property.
Yeah.
And there was no negotiation on price, which is interesting because after 2 months you'd expect a bit of negotiation.
Well, maybe not when it's double ended.
But maybe maybe there was another type of negotiation happening on the back end.
Yeah. True.
Okay. 980 one last thing. 1-car garage. I kind of feel like most people really want a 2-car garage when you cross that $2 million mark.
Yes.
So it is something to think about if you're buying, to try to think about the future when you are going to sell this in the future and where it is positioned in the market. $2+ million, most buyers expect a 2-car garage unless the location is.
So I think the exception is like that part of town, University Place and Chautauqua are like the historic homes. And I have sold a $2.5 million house with no garage up there because sometimes the city won't let you put one in. So it just depends on what your needs are. And I think people swap that historic charm and location for garage space.
980 Hertford Drive. It's your classic tri-level, built in the 60s, some cosmetic updates, and originally listed at 1.225. It looked like it took a little over a month and a half to go under contract after they cut the price to 1.185, and it sold for 1.125. So 100,000 below the list price. Yeah. Looking at the photos, it looks like mostly a cosmetic remodel, right? Yeah. Like they did some nice things with the colors and the paints. But it's Table Mesa Schools.
It's Table Mesa Schools. It's Table Mesa. Hartford's a good street. It's far enough in that I think you're not going to be affected by noise from Table Mesa. Maybe borderline on that.
It's close. So it's
in the first block. But I think I sold the house across the street, and I remember being surprised that it was pretty quiet.
It looks like it's the 5th house in. So my general rule of thumb has been 3 houses in or more.
Okay, so 5 houses in.
So 5. So yeah, you want to be 4 houses or more, and 5 should be fine.
I think it was just priced a little high. I will also say I think that remodel, I don't know about you, I am so tired of white cabinets with black hardware right now, and I just think that sometimes it doesn't look high end, even though it's clean and it's new. And so I don't know. I didn't tour that house personally, so I can't tell how it felt.
I didn't tour this house either, but it looks like a flip, right? And when there are notes in here that says seller elderly, I think the seller did a bunch of this work to make it sell. Sure. They spent $100,000 or $80,000, and they probably worked with the listing agent to get all this work done to make it livable. They even did some landscaping work on the front. Oh, wait a minute. The colors look that's weird.
The outside or the inside?
This is photo 31.
Yeah.
And
which is the front.
And then this is the first photo. The colors just looked like looks more different. Bluish. The color grade is just jumps color grade. I mean it's a good data point for the market for tri-levels, and it's a warning that multi-level houses take longer to sell, and be careful overpricing. But doing all the work to make it turnkey, even as a flip, is going to get it sold faster.
I think so too.
That's the basic story of this house.
Yeah, I think it was a good location and a price point that maybe is tricky to be in Table Mesa for anything decent. I just think sometimes people want more, because what was the total square footage on that?
I mean, it's only 1,600 square feet total.
So that's small for a family potentially moving in there. It's a little on the smaller side.
It is. Looking at the schools, is it both? It is Bear Creek.
Yeah.
So, it's both.
No, you should be able to choose.
This isn't that pocket of both. Yeah,
exactly.
Some of these are both Bear Creek and Mesa. Yeah, that's what this one is. All right, 720 Poplar Ave. We included this one mostly because we had a listing 2 years ago. Was it last year?
Yeah, the townhomes
that is part of this townhome complex, and it's sort of a unicorn type property. Like it's not a detached single family house. And at the time, there were some of these houses in the neighborhood that were selling at very similar price points. And it's a large townhome, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2,300 square feet, 1-car garage. Ours had a 2-car garage, and I think
that's nice.
Like closer to 3,300 square feet, if I remember correctly, but very similar vintage. And it turned out to be kind of an interesting niche to find the right buyer. But if you missed on this one, we might have a listing next spring that you should take a look at that is basically bigger than most houses and walk out the door to the Wonderland Lake open space.
Fantastic location there.
But 70s era construction with 70s era problems, 70s era grading and 70s era design.
Yep.
And it can be tough to, like, so we saw that first house was also 70s era at 6.5.
Right.
But that house, or 6.13, that house had massive re-engineering, re-envisioning. And that's really hard to do with an association. So that's where you kind of are capped on the upside for what you can actually do to change the look and feel of the house. But they didn't do much. I mean, there's like pink walls.
Yeah, no, it needs some updating, but
original carpet that's 20 years old.
Right, so all of that's solvable, right?
Solvable. Listed at 1198, sold for 112, and lock and leave. So the buyer for this is like probably older, doesn't want to do exterior maintenance, but still likes having a little garden in the backyard, and
could be a
loves
second home.
being able. Yeah, could be a second home. Loves walking into the open space. Loves walking to Lucky's for dinner, and can get to downtown in a few minutes if they want to.
It's a location buy for sure, and there's not a ton of like attached homes over there. There are some in that pocket, but just in general, if you want to be like in a really cool space near Wonderland Lake, there's not a whole lot of attached homes. It's a lot of things over 3 million.
Right. Absolutely. You're looking at most likely over 2 for a single family house. And this functions like that. And you can, kind of cool. And it doesn't have, it's like the pied de terre.
Yeah. Pied de terre.
Is it definitely not French? I think it's pied de terre, but.
Tried gaslighting Osman the wrong pronunciation. He looks it up in front of me and I'm like, dang.
1490 Chambers is our last one.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one is just a lesson in for every house there is a buyer.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And this is a ranch style house with a basement, 1,000 on the main, 1,000 square foot basement, 2-car attached garage, built in the 70s, but clearly remodeled, right? They spent some money. They put that little front patio on. They remodeled the kitchen and it's opened up inside. So it is a really nice house for under $1 million, except for this one thing.
It is on the corner of Broadway. It is really not a great location.
It is a tough location. Even if you're pulling in a car, it is like cars are getting ready to rear end you because they're not expecting you to slow down from 50 miles an hour to 30.
It's not just the noise there. It's more than that. Yeah.
And it's also the way the grade is. You're right next to Broadway.
Yeah.
So it really, I think they priced it right. You know, the same house not in this bad location should have been well over $1 million.
Right.
Maybe even $1.2 million.
I think it's a lesson in proper pricing, knowing your location.
Yeah, kudos to the listing agent who we all know and love.
Sells a lot of stuff around there. So
he sells a lot, and he
prices well.
I think he priced it right. Yeah, he did a good job. It was on the market only a couple of weeks.
And again, you know,
strike that. I lied. Nope, it was on the market only a couple of weeks. Sorry, I'm looking at the old listing. Listed in June at 8. Oh, this is so okay. Yeah, this is the one where. So the listing agent may have screwed up. Like originally, the same day it was listed at 875 and 925.
Oh, that's right.
And they're like, oh no, we meant 925, not 875. So it was listed at 925, and then it sold for only 9,000 below that.
Yeah,
I
think
right.
Again, under $1 million in Boulder is tricky, and there are a lot of buyers out there who are just looking for a single family home and they don't want to spend over $1 million, or they're capped at $1 million, and there's only so much to choose from, and you have to sort of pick your poison. What are you compromising? Is it the busy road? Is it the lack of updates? And so I think this one being updated and a good floor plan and properly priced, this is a lesson in good pricing.
It's a lesson in good pricing. It's got a weird layout. It's got a primary on the main, 2 bedrooms in the basement.
Yeah.
But everything looks really tidy and well done.
Yeah.
It's just for that one thing. Ugh. And so this is one of those listings where my clients would want to see it, and I would call them and say, look, I'm happy to show this to you. But before we schedule the showing, I need you to understand this is a really bad location.
Yeah.
And it's bad because of how heavy the traffic is. And if we go see it, there's a really good chance you're going to start talking yourself into it because it's priced right.
Right.
And it's gorgeous.
Good. Yeah.
And so I've seen this story before, and the best thing you could do is to avoid talking yourself into a bad decision is don't even schedule the showing. Yeah. It's that bad of a location.
You can look at Google Street View, in which I send people a screenshot sometimes of Street View and be like, just so you can see this is what you'd be looking at.
To do it, because that really removes the hurdle of asking them to do it.
Right.
Just send them a screenshot because there's traffic in that photo.
Yeah.
This is the house.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. I'm going to steal your technique of avoiding wasting time with on listings that you know they shouldn't buy.
You want this
and
to
if
be
they
your
do
backyard?
buy it. So here's the double-edged sword of if they do buy it.
Then you have to sell it.
Someday you're going to sell this thing if you have a good relationship with them, and you're stuck with the bad decision that they made.
Right. But you know what? I have sold houses backing the foothills as a listing agent, and I have helped buyers purchase ones that are what we would call in a compromised location. So there is a buyer for every house, and there's a limited number of homes available in this price point in Boulder. So some people are going to be okay with it. They all sell sooner or later. And coming back to that market cycle of 2022, if we're ever in a market like that, oh my God, sell your house backing to 36.
If you have a house in a bad location, sell it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it and buy something else. Sure. Now is the time. You're never going to have a market like that again.
Right.
Or unlikely to.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. We've gone through our sales of the week and our notable sales. And I think it's time to talk about our one hot news story. I don't need this laptop anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Mark Wallach.
Mark Wallach has
abrupt resignation.
Abruptly resigned after the airport vote.
Right.
And the vote was, I think, 8-1.
8-1. He was the lone
dissenter.
Yep.
And he had a prepared speech that he read and he asked everyone to put it on the record.
Yeah.
And then he made everyone listen to his resignation.
Yes, right. Yep. It was definitely a performance.
It was a performance.
And it was planned.
Did you read his...
Staged?
No, not staged, but he clearly had it ready to go. So he knew how the vote was likely going to go. I mean, there had already been enough votes. 2 of them had converted because they had done that amendment to the proposal, but clearly it was going to go in that direction. So it seemed like he was prepared. And maybe he was just done and prepared to retire, and he wanted to go out on this note, but it seemed abrupt.
I'm with you.
I think people voted for him to serve in council.
Yeah.
And being the dissenting vote might have been why the amendments were put in place, convincing the other council people that we need to do these things in order to get votes, building alliances and working on compromises. Yeah. That's the art of politics, and him just bailing out because he felt like council was making the wrong decision.
Feels like a cop-out.
It's pretty much, people called it what do they call it? A rage quit on Reddit. I don't think you rage quit.
I don't think it was a rage quit when you have a prepared speech.
Exactly. If you've prepared your speech, it's not a rage quit, but it's still infantile.
Also, you're in a position where you have some say, right? You have a vote. And then to resign means you no longer have that vote.
Right.
So we've just given up any agency to do anything good down the road.
You no longer have the ability to influence your other council people. So, and you have disappointed all the people that supported you in your campaign the third time, your third term.
Yeah.
I think, and so with that regard, I think his vote was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Like he was, if council didn't approve, if council didn't vote to keep the airport, we were setting ourselves up for another really expensive lawsuit, just like the Muni,
FAA,
that we're probably going to lose.
Right.
We're taking on the FAA, which can print money
through
as part of the federal government, and we cannot.
Right.
And they are probably not going to let this happen. So why are we setting ourselves up for failure?
Yeah.
And also on the altar of middle income affordable housing, which so it's kind of funny. He used the term in Boulder Reporting Lab. He had, in my words, did you read it?
I read it, yeah.
He, at the very end of that, he used a term that I first wrote about in 2014 called the Aspenization of Boulder.
Yes, funny.
And so Google this. You will see there are 2 references to Aspenization of Boulder if you search just that term. Mine's in 2014 where it's unstoppable.
Right.
Okay, so it's been going on for a long time. And I don't mean to grandstand of having named Aspenization of Boulder. Maybe somebody coined it earlier. But I just was kind of stunned when I saw him write that. Because I'm like, that's my term.
Like, I said that.
But that's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
But at the same time, I also think that, unfortunately, that ship sailed a long time ago.
Yeah.
And what is the market mechanism for increasing supply without increasing density such that developers can make a profit on middle income housing? Yeah. And if you try to make it affordable, you are squeezing the balloon, right? You're increasing the bureaucracy of the city endlessly, because you're doing not for purchase affordable. Primarily the city has been building these rental affordable. They've been building so little purchase affordable. So
it's not really easing that issue. I think, as far as, the lack of affordable housing in Boulder has not usually been about cheap condos for rent. it's been about.
Well, that's what most people. The American dream is not to rent a condo from the city.
Exactly.
Or even a middle income condo from the city.
Right.
People want to have skin in the game.
Yes.
They want to use real estate as an asset that they own and they can invest in for their families
and build wealth.
Right. They don't want a landlord.
No.
So it's unfortunately, this ship has sailed. Like, it's not a problem that's fixable anymore.
Right.
And I think grandstanding over the airport was just silly.
And a little surprising, I think, that would be that's the issue. That's why
was
he looking for an issue to go out on?
After so many like horrible council meetings where people were disrupting council meetings over things that are happening internationally, for which I have opinions too. We're not going there.
Nope.
But it's not what council has any say over. And yet, that would have probably driven me to
I appreciated
resign.
his defense of all, that fact that I appreciated his opinions on a lot of those issues. So I liked Mark Wallach. I thought he was a good council member. I would have voted for him. I can't vote in the city of Boulder. I don't live in the city of Boulder, but
Where do you live?
I live in Louisville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're both Boulder County, neither city of Boulder.
And you too,
well,
right?
No, he is
Westminster.
Right. So all three of us are.
She is city of Louisville.
Yeah.
So she gets to say.
I can vote in the city of Louisville, but I don't get a say in Boulder City Council elections, but I do have a lot of opinions.
And would you ever want to be on the city council?
I mean, it looks rough, and I just don't know how they get anything done. We have plenty of issues in Boulder that need to be addressed. Lots of things in Boulder, and so
right, homelessness, potholes, snow removal.
Yes, right. The list goes on.
Prairie dogs.
One of the points
not international issues.
One of the points I saw for the airport, which I think made a lot of sense, is for like wildfire response.
Right.
It's not necessarily.
It's not just hobbyists.
It's not necessarily for like tankers, but also like the firefighting helicopters and evacuation and as a thing of infrastructure for Boulder.
Well, and the way at the end of his speech, he sort of said, putting the interests of a handful of pilots ahead of like 100,000 people in Boulder, and I was like, that just seems oversimplified. That's not really what we're talking about here. It's not a handful of pilots versus the people of Boulder.
It's a resource for our community when we need it in an emergency.
It's an asset.
We might need. It's an asset. And also, do we really want more housing there?
Right.
And so this is what. So
it's also like, when are you getting an airport back? It's like the schools that Westminster is selling next to my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's like easy to sell and redevelop. Very hard to get a school or an airport back if you decide you wanted one.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's also not that busy of an airport, and I don't think that's sort of the point of contention with this airport is, are people bothered by the noise? Whereas at RMMA, that is all anyone talks about. And living in 80027 and Superior Louisville area, I can tell you that is like a hot button topic that has already had to
traffic. It gets commercial traffic.
A lot of air traffic, and it has really hurt home values in South Superior in particular.
Oh, for sure. If you're anywhere on we've had those listings where we're like, oh boy, we can't even fly a drone because
you cannot fly a drone to do your photography, and people can stand outside and change their minds.
We can fly a drone.
It takes planning, but you can get approval.
To reserve the airspace.
We got approval.
Gotten approval.
Okay, because my photographers have been grounded on it, but that's a good point. Good thing. So it's not that issue, right? So that's a hot button issue in the Superior and Louisville area, but I don't think that's really what people are protesting in Boulder. It's not the noise.
It's not the noise. Well, I mean, there are some people that hate the noise. There are some people that don't like the lead fuel in the air. I don't like the noise. I don't like the lead fuel in the air. The question is, what is the highest and best use of the land?
Sure.
What has been the highest and best use of the land? And I mean, people, this is no surprise. I'm not pro-development. I'm not anti-development, but I'm definitely not pro-development everywhere we can stick housing.
Right.
Like, there's a limit to the size of our city.
Yeah.
And this is a question I've asked every single city council person I've met, and most of them duck the question because they don't like the answer.
Yeah.
And the answer is 110,000 people. Like, how many more people do you want to squeeze into our city with our roadways the way they are?
Yeah.
With the size of our existing infrastructure, with the water needs of our community, how do you keep our community beautiful and functional and really a small city? Like, we're 100,000 people, of which 50,000 is related to CU.
Right. Yeah.
So this is not a mega city.
Yeah.
And if you want high density, it's called Denver.
Yes,
It's right
down
there.
the street.
Just go
Exactly.
for it. You don't need to turn Boulder into Denver.
Right.
And that is somehow offensive to progressives. And they feel like housing is a right and we just need to keep building until the point that Boulder real estate is affordable.
Right.
And there is no point, in my personal opinion, that you can build enough Boulder real estate
to make it affordable.
Market rate is once again affordable. And
Right.
it's not, that ship sailed 20 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was still expensive. So I think it's just going to destroy our community to guilt ourselves into building endless housing.
Yeah.
And the planning reserve is likely where that housing is going to get built.
Sure.
And he mentioned that. And I've been talking about the planning reserve since Hamish has been part of House Einstein.
Yeah.
I've been foaming at the mouth about the planning reserve.
Right.
They're going to put high density housing in the planning reserve,
Yeah.
even if it costs $500 million to do it. They're going to do it. But how do they pay for the infrastructure? That's where you're not going to get middle income housing there, because you need the higher end stuff to pay, or you need lower end high density.
Right.
You can't do middle income single family houses on lots.
Right, which is what we're lacking.
Which is what everyone wants, but you're not going to get.
Right.
Exactly. And it's the same thing. We were talking about compatible development earlier, where the people that are grandfathered in stand to make the most.
Right.
All the people with the single family homes and Table Mesa and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's
stand
people
to gain.
living on Mapleton Hill, who have had their homes since the 70s, and they bought it for a reasonable price, and they just haven't moved. Maybe they've updated, and they're sitting on, $3 million property.
Huge gains, $5 million more, but also the tax burden has gotten excessive for a lot of those people. Unless they're affluent to begin with, they're getting increasingly priced out, not just in Mapleton Hill, all over Boulder, because of how high the prices have gotten.
That's interesting that you say that, because I think, compared to other areas, I have family in New York and Westchester County, which is known for its high taxes, but I mean, people there are paying $30,000, $40,000 a year in property taxes, so it always feels cheaper here by comparison. And I have people coming from out of state, California, other areas, that all marvel at how low our property taxes are here. But they do seem to be on their way up.
They're on their way up.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a moral imperative to fight all taxes.
Wow, that's a hot take.
That's my hot take. And I'm from New York, and those tax burdens are insane.
They are insane.
And they're very expensive. So real estate in Boulder is not extremely expensive compared to attractive parts of major cities that you would want to live in on the East and West Coast. But at the same time, our tax burden is increasing, and our school base is decreasing.
Yes.
And so the answer, and this is one of the things I think we should be doing with the money, instead of raising $500 million to fix 75 buildings, we should be raising capital to have free childcare if you're in the city limits for everybody. 100%. I think that's a much better use of money. I know that sounds very socialist.
Radical.
Yes, that's a little socialist, but having raised 2 children in the Boulder area, it's expensive.
It's really it's insane.
It's cost prohibitive.
A lot of people I know that the second job goes entirely to paying for childcare.
We had that scenario for sure.
My brother right now, North Carolina, but same thing.
Yeah.
One income childcare, the other income house.
Which sort of says how much you're willing to pay to escape your children. Like, you're willing to go to work 9 to 5 every day and have a boss, and just to not have to, like, I don't know.
I'll let him know.
Priorities. I think that there's a cost to being removed from the workforce for a few years. Just to dive into this a little bit, we don't have to go deep, but for someone like your brother, it does maybe affect men even more. But to be out of the workforce for 4 or 5 years while you're raising kids and then try to re-enter, especially in the tech world, can be impossible.
What do you think of the trad wife movement?
The trad wife movement, the manosphere.
I think it's disingenuous.
You think it's fake?
Maybe that's just for you and I. Yeah.
It looks fake to me, but I've noticed it triggers some people on our team, and they send us trad wife content. And I'm like, what is this that you're sending?
The very trad wives promoting it are contradicting what they're promoting by working and generating the income and influencing the culture.
It's hypocritical.
Yeah. Well, it's also just unattainable. The only reason they're attaining it and living the trad life thing is because they're making money off of it.
There's some rage bait involved there, I think, too. People are getting clicks.
Probably just for the clicks.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
All right. This is the segment of the podcast where we get to talk about carve-outs. And Hamish, I think you should lead because you've been so darn quiet with pod.
Okay, I'm going to keep mine short because I'm not on the screen. But a consistent theme to all of the sales of the week that we were looking at, the photography space in Boulder has improved. And I take a lot of the listing photos and stuff for House Einstein. The techniques changed. So something that I'm kind of like starting to pivot towards, and I met a great photographer out in North Carolina and everything, is there's a new technique called Flambient. And it's not necessarily new, but it is more often than not reserved for higher end. To my understanding, it's essentially the same kind of bracketed exposure thing that we're doing. However, they'll
HDR.
However, they'll take a flash, a remote flash with them and a little remote, and walk around and kind of create ambient light space and then blend it in Photoshop. So
I've had photographers do that, and I have had mixed results with how I felt about it. where they walk around and they shine the flash in all the shadowy areas. And I had one particular company they were lovely, but I just thought their photos looked fake in the end. Like it gave this sort of like computer
almost
rendering.
Too crispy, right?
Yeah. It didn't look real. It didn't feel like it had natural light, and we want that natural light. So I ended up stopping using them because of that technique. But there's probably a better way to apply it.
I bet you there's a middle ground somewhere within it.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the listing, but we talked about it, and I was like, wow, this almost looks entirely generated. You know, it's like a little bit too polished.
Yeah.
I like the light pops on the outside of the house, right? Like if it's a dusk shot and the house has I've seen them set up remote triggered flashes and having some interesting, so you see some architectural detail in the house where the light pops at dusk. That's cool. And that's an interesting technique, but I think that, the fakeness of multiple pops what's the technique called?
Flambient. So it's flash, ambient.
I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah.
Okay. I've watched it. I've watched it in action. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think the results still have to be edited.
I still think I prefer really good composition and a little creamy look and a little
Above
warm
all
tone. We've dialed it in at this point where I'm really happy with our photography, Hamish. Initially, when you started shooting photos, or one of our top agents was like not good enough.
Yep.
And so we ended up bringing in the high-end photographers for her stuff, and now we're doing all of it in house. And she's very happy, including her own house. She even listed and sold her house, and she was very happy with your work. So
it's good to have that consistent product, especially throughout your brokerage. And I mean, if you think about there's a brokerage in Boulder that their photos always look very consistent. You know, Mile High Modern, all of their photos have that sort of like washed out kind of white look.
They do,
which is cool. It's a look. You can tell right away from the photos which brokerage the listing came from. So
I wonder if they're required to always use the same photographer.
Yeah.
That explains it.
There's a list of them, but they are trained in a certain editing process.
We have a dedicated LUT that shifts like a certain range of colors towards closer to our brand palette.
Yeah, we literally put them in our brand palette.
And so cool. Like it kind of creates that mental likeness, and I bet that's what Mile High Modern's got.
I think that's what they're going for. And then we at AZ too, we have guidelines for photography as well, and doing more shots that are straight on these days instead of at angles, and so
those are in,
which is cool. That's in right now. Yeah. Stay on top of the
trends. It's a developing field, and so I bet Flambient, I'm probably not going to do it for all of them, and maybe there's some where it's like this is great, but it removes the soul of the house, so to speak, or something like that. It's an arms race, and who's got the best marketing and techniques and everything.
I love good photography, and I looked at something yesterday that was like 1.7 million with cell phone photos. And I don't even know how to respond to that.
All you have to do is look at the old, so pull up a listing on the MLS and click on there's a button to click on the old. It now pulls up all the old listings.
Yeah.
And you look at the photos from even 10 years ago. It is such a leap in quality. It's shocking. Mm-hmm. But at least cool. It's really shocking when people are still using cell phone photos. But you get what you pay for.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really a good reason to do cell phone photos at all, ever, in my opinion. I've never done it. I don't see any reason to ever do it. I think even a $250,000 condo, especially the $250,000 condo, deserves professional photos. It's not something I compromise. I always pay for it.
Budget photography is better than cell phone
Anything is better than cell phone photos.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm complete, as we say in Boulder.
I'm glad that you're still curious and you're still looking to, even though your photos are amazing, that you're still advancing your mastery of the art, because that curiosity and that willingness to try new things will keep us in the lead on.
We need
our
that
quality.
edge.
And also makes it more interesting for you. Mm-hmm. So, all right, you and me. You want to flip a coin?
What are you talking about?
I think I'm going to talk about Burning Man.
Oh, I was going to talk about Mahjong. Do you want me to go first? What do you want to hear first?
You got my curiosity with Mahjong. I've heard enough Burning Man. I'm sorry.
Burning Man from me.
We'll close with Burning Man. Okay. So, I mean, Mahjong is a pretty ancient game. You've probably heard of it. It involves tiles. It's a little bit like gin rummy, but with tiles. And there's a lot of different versions of it. It started in China in the late 1800s, but by the 1920s, it had been brought to the U.S. and was adapted to what's now called American Mahjong. And there's Hong Kong style Mahjong. There's Mahjong all throughout like the Asian diaspora as well. But American Mahjong was big in the 20s. It was a lot of Jewish women getting together to play as sort of a social scene. And has stayed consistent throughout the years, but in the last year or so has had like an unbelievable renaissance. And now there was sort of a traditional look to the set of tiles, and now there are all these companies making new tile sets that are sometimes very expensive, $400 or $500, but they have different types of designs and different colors and different backs. And there's a whole world out there that I have probably been swept up in a little too much with collecting certain tile sets, mixing and matching the mats and the racks and the tiles, and sort of like the aesthetic appeal of the whole thing in addition to the gameplay. And then on top of that, it has been such a wonderful what they call, the third place. Like you have your work and you have your home, and then you have like sort of your hobbies or your third place or your clubs that you're in. And so to have this third place for someone who's very busy at home and very busy at work, but to have a social setup with mostly my women friends to play a game that also really scratches that itch, like the same sort of part of your brain that does the crossword puzzles and like really makes you think strategically, has been so fun.
So you're in a Mahjong club?
I play with probably like 3 different groups throughout the week, every week.
How many nights of the week are you Mahjonging?
I play it sometimes Monday mornings when I'm not busy with work. Sometimes I sneak away and play at the JCC with women who are mostly, let's just say, a little older than me. But I love that and have been playing for 40-something years. And then I have a couple groups who are more my age. And we play in the evenings or on Sundays.
Is it like people order drinks and appetizers? Or
people bring food, yeah. These days, drinking's kind of out now. Yeah. People don't drink so much anymore. So it's not centered around alcohol, but more social time and, some snacks. Sometimes we meet at Relish, which is the pickleball food hall in Louisville. Have you been there?
No.
Oh, you need to go to Relish.
Well, I don't like pickleball, so I'm
You
not
don't have to
there.
like pickleball. It's also like a food court and kind of just a scene.
I don't think I've been there.
Stop it.
How many sets do you have?
I don't even want to say. I think I'm rounding out 10
right
right now.
All right, you said collecting sets. I was imagining like 1,000.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Okay, well, they are expensive, and they are sometimes, because they're made by artists and smaller companies, there's like limited drops. So they can't just like make a million sets of them and have unlimited supply. So they'll be out of stock for months at a time. You'll be on a wait list. They'll release them. They'll sell out in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And you kind of have to be like ready to get them. So it becomes a little bit of a collector thing. But even just like the sound of them clacking together is very satisfying.
It's like an enameled little stone pieces.
It's like usually acrylic.
Acrylic.
Either acrylic or melamine.
Have you played?
I've never played. I know
Me either.
Mahjong. I've never played it. I know what it is though.
Do you though? It's not the game that people think of when a lot of people have like an app version that's just matching tiles, but it's actually a super complicated strategic game where you're in American Mahjong, there is a card that has set hands on it, and it gets updated every year. A new card is released every April by the National Mahjong League, and that shows you the hands for the year, and there's different categories, sometimes involving even numbers, odd numbers, different types of tiles.
Are you ranked? Is there like professional rankings?
There are tournaments. I am not involved in tournaments. It's definitely something I do for fun, and I don't like a lot of competition. But so you get like a different card, and you have to create these set hands, and there's a lot of rules, and it is a complicated game. It's not probably what you're thinking of.
Okay.
But it's pretty cool. And it has just become so much more mainstream now than it ever used to be. It used to be like very niche. And now there's a lot of companies in Texas that are blowing up with their tile sets and gameplays and tournaments and open play. And I think you'll see in the next, like now that I have said this, you are going to start to see it everywhere. The algorithm's going to blow you up. But don't be surprised if you see like, some Mahjong parlor open up in downtown Boulder.
My phone is off.
Yeah.
So if I start seeing Mahjong showing up on my content,
it'll happen.
I'm going to be.
It's going to happen.
We've been geofenced together, so
exactly.
all of our stuff.
I think that is true. The phones being near each other actually is what does it. So you might get some Mahjong content. But anyway, what a fun game! If you've been curious about it, it's worth learning how to play. My husband does play.
3 nights a week is a lot of time to be away from home.
So I would say like Monday mornings at the J when I can.
All
right? That's the 2.5 hour commitment I can't always do. But I try to clear time on Monday mornings. It kind of sets my brain up for the week. It clears my head a little bit. And we have like a stressful job, and I think
we do.
I'm sure I know I lie awake sometimes at night thinking about inspection resolutions, and it is nice to fill my head with something different for a couple hours.
Oh, yeah.
So I do Monday mornings. I do usually Thursday evenings with a consistent group, and then occasionally Sunday, either morning or afternoon with another.
I feel like if I were out 3 nights, I know it's not nights, but if I was away 3 nights a week, it would build up Mahjong resentment. My wife would start to resent the Mahjong commitment.
I have forced my husband and children to learn how to play. So
really?
they play with me, so sometimes we play at home.
Are they good?
They are. My kids are 8 and 10, and they are quite good at it. It's not an easy game to learn. It took a while to like really develop them into good players, but they're sharks.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that.
That's
interesting. Mahjong.
What do you got? Burning Man.
Yeah, this is that time of year where Burning Man starts to take up a bigger and bigger portion of my brain because of our commitment to our camp and the nonprofit that produces our camp every year. And this year we had a lot of our stuff get damaged in the windstorms of last year, and we raised $36,000 in donations to buy new tents, and so making that purchase decision took up a lot of space, and now we're in the final rundown. We're a month away from rolling on to Playa. Less than a month away is when we depart. 3 weeks, which is a little bit like, oh my God. Yeah. We have strangers coming to the house this weekend who are cooking food in Denver in a commercial kitchen. We're going to freeze that food, drive it out there in box freezers. And it's just a lot of logistics because it's not just for us. It's this camp of 70 to 80 people.
Are you a leader in this camp, though? Is that why this is on you?
I'm a lead in the camp. I'm a lead in the camp.
Yeah.
I'm not technically a board member of the nonprofit. You know, I feel like it's a area of service, and it's a commitment to people that have changed my life for the better. In so many ways, the experiences at Burning Man have been radically transformative for the quality of life and personal development in my own life. And so giving back to that community is something I care a lot about. And so these are some of my closest friends. And now we're seeing them like 4 times a year at other events and social gatherings. And so it's something that means a lot to me. And the 1 year Rogue Burn, that the event wasn't officially produced was the easiest year ever because our camp didn't have an official presence. And so my wife and I just went with our little cargo trailer, and man, we were like done with setup in 15 minutes
easy.
and done with strike in like half an hour. I'm like, this is so easy compared to producing a camp for 70 something people. But those 70 people, half of which are typically international, and they wouldn't be able to do it without our support.
And they're friends, or like, how did you form this group?
This group has existed. It was founded in Boulder in the 90s.
Before you.
Well before me. I did not become part of this camp until 2011 and 2012. And ever since then, I've camped with this organization. But the camp has been around since the 90s, and it's primarily mission driven to create space for healing, chiropractic, massage, acupuncture, talk therapy, all sorts of therapeutic modalities are what happens as our gift in the community. But my end is more the logistics and more the infrastructure, like making sure the power's on and the water is delivered. And we just ordered water for all these people, and it has to get delivered. So every gallon comes on, every gallon that goes off, all of the logistics involved in producing this thing in a very narrow time frame.
Wow.
So it takes up a little bit more of my brain from now till we actually roll out.
Is it just you, or is it you and some others who are sort of like
No.
leading
So
the
this is the most,
organization?
that's a great question. And it used to be a grand poobah, top-down driven leadership structure. And then when that leader had to leave for unforeseen circumstances, a bunch of us other leads stood up and took leadership roles, but we restructured the camp, and I was pretty insistent on this. I don't want to take full responsibility, but I pushed incredibly hard that I was not interested in another grand poobah. I wanted a flat organizational structure, so we adopted a playbook out of Zappos, and their original structure was a holacracy. And a holacracy does not have a conventional top-down leadership structure. Instead, you have self-organizing units with leaders that sort of just step up and start doing what needs to be done without any sort of top-down approval. And so we came up with 5 functional or 6 functional areas with 2 leads per area. We came up with some basic rules for how we make big decisions, and then we went with it, and it worked. And so today we have mostly women leads in our leadership circles, which is rare to have have this type of organization with this kind of budget and be mostly woman-led as a camp. And we continue to carry on. Most of the drama is gone from our camp. We have a great structure. We have showers. We have hot showers.
Awesome.
Fantastic food, and shade structures, misting fans. And this year we have $30,000+ worth of new tents and a brand new Jenny that's going to be coming in soon. And so all of that's where my brain goes when I'm not focusing on real estate stuff. But I also now go to Burning Man with Starlink.
Right.
And it's increasingly
different.
become like nights, or like I'm doing conference calls and dealing with things.
Yeah.
But without a team, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Sure.
And we live on Playa for 2 weeks every year. So I add up the amount of time that I've lived on this dried up, dusty lake bed that's trying to kill me. at like half a year at this point.
Right.
I've lived on this dried up, dusty lake bed. I'm like, do I really?
How many years have you been going?
Since 2011. And I also volunteer with the Rangers, which are the community mediators of the burn. And I really enjoy that too.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So yeah, it's becoming a bigger and bigger piece of my life, as Hamish knows, because he takes on more and more responsibility for this time period. It's like, Mike, Hamish, come to this meeting. You need to meet these clients because you might be doing showings for 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
And they need to feel good about that.
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing that
How great that you make space for that. I think that's great.
Honestly, it just has changed my life in so many ways for the better, and I care about this community. So yeah, we keep on keeping on.
It's wonderful.
All right.
If you keep going enough, you'll be the man they burn. That's how it works, right?
I don't think that's how it works.
I will say the identity, there is something really symbolic about the man, and that being almost like your identity or what you thought was so important, and then having it burn. The symbolism of that is very, very, I think, embedded in the human subconscious. That's why it affects so many people and why they go back year after year.
I was going to say, like, the power is almost more powerful the next year you come back, because it's over that course of the year you watch yourself burn down, rebuild, and then it's like your yearly reset almost.
It does feel like New Year's.
Yeah.
It really does feel like New Year's. Yeah.
Like, do you come back feeling refreshed or renewed in some way, or are you just tired and dirty?
I have come back with major epiphanies about my life and my life's direction and things that were happening and things that needed to stop happening and things I was letting go of completely. And I'll never forget that first burn. And I came back realizing I'm done arguing with people. Like, I don't need to be right in any relationship anymore. Like, I will play the game just for this because I love arguing, but I don't need to win anymore. And I knew most of my identity up until that point, and this is whatever year that was, I think a big piece of that was I needed to be right. Yeah. And it was a defense mechanism. Yeah. It was use intellect and fast talking to interrupt people if you can't beat them in the intellectual argument, like argue better, smarter, faster, just to win, to make them wrong and you right, to make yourself better and support your ego. And I realized I had been doing that in so many ways in my life up until 2011. And then suddenly it was like, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. And it wasn't quite a light switch, but it felt like a light switch in a lot of ways. And that decision to not argue anymore, I think also caused a lot of ripples in other parts of my life where people were expecting you to argue. And you're like, that's cool. All I needed to know is your opinion. That's totally fine. We have differences of opinions. I'm cool. Yeah. I don't need to win this argument.
Walk away. For years.
And they're like, no, come on and argue with me. I'm like, no, we're good.
People want to bait you. People used to tell me I would, should be a lawyer or would be a good lawyer. And it took me years to realize that was not a compliment. Not a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing to say to somebody. I don't know if you were ever told that too in your arguing years. People are like, you should be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Not always a nice
thing. For
thing.
sure. No, it doesn't feel good. So anyway, that's my carve out.
Okay, great.
Thanks for asking about that. And with that, you've reached the end of another House Einstein podcast. You've managed to squander a little over 2 hours with us. And as always, we deeply appreciate your comments and your time in listening. We do read your comments. We can't answer all of them. But absolutely, thank you for joining us today. We hope you catch us again next time.
Thanks so much for having me today. This was so fun.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Karen, for joining us.
Thank you, Karen, for joining us. I'm sorry. I'm thanking the audience, but I didn't thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.